Welcome to Moonlit Publishing.
Chapter 1. Kennedy's POV. I think my fingers have become the strongest part of my body. For months now, I've been scrolling through a dating app, searching for a spark. Work at the clinic has been suffocating lately. I'm dedicated to my pack, but restless. I need to feel something besides the snap of latex gloves, a connection that reminds me I'm more than just the village doctor. I lock my phone and finish my coffee. It's Friday and the valley air is crisp. With a last glance at my single chair table, I head to the clinic, wondering if today will finally change something. Code red. The big bad wolf is coming our way. Chandler, my head nurse, never knocks. She simply brings chaos. The alpha is coming, she breathes, eyes wide. That grabs my attention. Alpha Cade is a titan who patrols borders and leads hundreds. He would only visit my dingy clinic if something's wrong. My mind leaps to my small infractions. Is he here about the extra gauze rolls I borrowed for my home kit? He's injured, Chandler adds, snapping me out of my panic. Impossible, I mutter. Cade is 200 pounds of peak genetic strength. In 5 years of service, I've never seen him so much as stumble. Get the irrigation kit and the suture tray ready. Now. I smell him before I see him, pine forest and the sharp, metallic tang of fresh blood. When Cade enters, his presence fills the room, making the ceiling feel 3 feet lower. He's shirtless, bronzed skin smeared with dust. I focus strictly on his face, determined to remain professional despite my heart's erratic thumping. A jagged gash marks his forehead. He looks at me indifferent, as if the injury's nothing. I need stitches, he says. His voice is a low rumble that vibrates in my chest. I agree, Alpha. Let me prep the local anesthetic. No drugs, he interrupts, his brown eyes locking onto mine. Just clean it and sew it. I frown, my professional instincts kicking in. It will be incredibly painful, Alpha. Let me do my job properly. His eyebrows lift. He isn't used to being challenged, but he sees the resolve in my eyes. A ghost of a smirk touches his lips. No drugs, doctor. Proceed. I give in, knowing a stubborn alpha is harder to treat than an injured one. For 30 minutes, we're inches apart. I clean the wound with steady hands, grateful for my gloves as his heat radiates. He doesn't flinch. I'm stitching granite. All done, I finally whisper, stepping back to admire the clean work. I turn to dispose of supplies, his gaze heavy on me. I keep busy, but the tension is suffocating. Did you need anything else, Alpha? I ask, tucking a stubborn, loose curl behind my ear. Cade's hand finds me. His fingers, rough and scorching, brush my cheek as he gently traps the curl himself. You're trembling, Kennedy, he observes, his voice pooling around me. It's not an accusation, just stark honesty, as if he's reading the need written across my skin. I swallow hard. It's been a long shift, sir. I find you fascinating, he says, stepping closer until I'm backed against the counter. And I think you feel the same pull I do. I'm a straightforward man. I don't have time for courtship or grand promises, but I want this connection between us. I square my shoulders and meet his gaze. I've spent months looking for a spark on a screen, and now a wildfire stands in front of me. I'm not seeking grand promises, Cade. I value my independence as you value your pack. Then we understand each other, he says, his voice dropping an octave. But not here. Not where you work. He's right. The clinic is for healing, and what is happening between us is something entirely different. He waits for my nod, a silent request for consent. And when I give it, the air finally breaks. My cabin is just up the trail, I whisper. He doesn't speak. He leads me from the clinic into the trees, professionalism falling away with each step. By my porch, the outside world has vanished. When the door clicks shut behind us, caution disintegrates. He closes the distance in a single, hungry movement, hands anchoring firmly at my waist. My heart pounds wildly as I reach up, featherlight near his fresh stitches, but helpless against the powerful, undeniable gravity of him. This is no examination. This is surrender, the kind that promises to remake us both. Chapter 2. Kennedy. The transition from the sterile, bright lights of the clinic to the low, amber glow of my cabin feels like stepping into another dimension. For years, I've been the doctor, clinical, detached, and safe. But as Kate stands in the center of my living room, his sheer physical presence makes my quiet sanctuary feel electric. The silence between us is heavy, filled only by the wind through the pines and the steady, rhythmic pull of our shared breath. He looks at me with a dark, focused intensity that makes my heart hammer against my ribs. "This is the line, Kennedy," he says, his voice a low, gravelly rumble. "Once we cross it, the clinic will never feel the same. The boundaries will be gone." I take a step toward him, my resolve hardening. "I'm tired of boundaries, Cade. I've spent months staring at a screen, looking for a spark. I'm not looking for safety tonight." He moves with a predatory graceland that leaves me breathless. When his hands find my waist, the heat is instantaneous, a physical jolt that sweeps away every professional thought. He pulls me close, and I feel the raw strength beneath the alpha title. No strings, he murmurs against my skin, his breath a warm trail of fire. "Just this connection. Just tonight." Just tonight, I breathe back, reaching up to anchor myself to him. As the world outside the cabin blurs into shadows and moonlight, the tension between us finally boils over. Every sense is overwhelmed, the scent of rain and cedar on his skin, the weight of his gaze, and the undeniable pull of a faded match. In the quiet night, the alpha takes my focus, my breath, and my heart's rhythm, replacing them with a fire I never knew I could feel. The next morning, the clinic lights feel blindingly white. I'm back in my lab coat, my fingers snapping into latex gloves with practiced precision, but the familiar routine feels like a mask. I scrub the exam tables with frantic energy, not to clean but to distract myself, my fingers trembling, skin buzzing with the memory of his touch, every nerve alight with aftershocks. "Morning, Doc." Chandler chirps, barging into the room with her usual chaotic energy. She stops mid-stride, her nose wrinkling as she sniffs the air. "Whoa, did you bathe in industrial cleaner? It smells like a sterile factory in here." "I just wanted to be thorough," I say, keeping my back to her as I organize a drawer of tongue depressors. Right. Chandler leans against the counter, eyeing me suspiciously. "You've got a look about you, Kennedy. Your cheeks are flushed, and you've missed a button on your coat. Did something happen after the alpha left yesterday?" My heart skips a beat. I quickly fix the button, forcing my voice to remain flat. "He had a head injury, Chandler. I treated it. End of story." "If you say so," she laughs, turning to head toward the break room. "But if I didn't know better, I'd say you look like a woman who finally found that spark she was looking for." I watch her leave, finally letting out the breath I've been holding. I catch my reflection in the glass of the medicine cabinet, my lips are slightly swollen, and my eyes have a depth I don't recognize. The professional wall is back up for the pack to see, but deep down, I know the alpha hasn't just visited my clinic. He's changed my entire world. Chapter 3. Kennedy. I exhale with relief when Chandler finally leaves the room. I find my eyes drifting toward the exam table, and a heat that has nothing to do with the summer weather creeps up my neck. I've always prided myself on my professionalism, but after yesterday, the very air in this clinic feels charged. Cade was only my second patient of the day, but his presence lingers like a storm front that hasn't quite passed. I have one last person to see, and then a mountain of paperwork that won't finish itself. I pull up the next patient's file. Anjali. She's 18 and healthy, but when she walks in, she's swallowed by baggy clothes that seem far too heavy for a hot summer day. She sits on the edge of the chair, her feet pointed toward the door as if she's ready to bolt. "Hi, Anjali," I say, keeping my voice soft. "How are you feeling today?" She crosses her arms, eyes darting to the door. "I'm okay. I didn't go to the specialist. I don't want anyone in the pack knowing. Professional or not." I see tears well up. "Anjali, your privacy matters. But are these choices yours or someone else's?" "My mate loves me," she whispers. "But we're young. He says he'll support me, but it feels like my life is shifting." "I hear you," I say with a supportive look. No need to decide today. I'm here for your health, whatever you choose. She stands up abruptly, her clothes fluttering. I have to go. Thank you, Kennedy. Watching her rush out makes my heart sink. I want to help, but as a doctor, I can only open the door. She has to choose to walk through it. Saturday night finds me in a completely different kind of chaos. Chandler has dragged me to the new Pack bar downtown. I'm in ripped jeans and a simple white tank top, nursing a drink while the R&B music thumps through the floorboards. I'm an introvert at heart, so I've already retreated into my phone, lost in a digital novel. When the story hits a particularly romantic peak, I find myself glancing over my shoulder, worried someone can sense my racing pulse. Kennedy. Chandler hisses, leaning over the table. Stop reading and look around. You're supposed to be relaxing. This is relaxing, I mutter, but my eyes drift toward the far corner of the room. My heart stops. Cade is there. He's sitting with a striking woman, but his gaze isn't on his companion, it's locked onto me. The intensity in his dark eyes is enough to make the ice in my glass melt. I look away, trying to keep my composure, but a moment later, the crowd parts. Cade is walking straight toward me, his presence demanding the attention of every wolf in the room. Doctor, he says, his voice a low vibration. A word outside? I follow him into the cool night air. We stand just far enough from the entrance to have a sliver of privacy. I want to be clear, Cade says, skipping the pleasantries. The woman you saw me with is a Pack dignitary. It's for appearances only. I have no other romantic ties, and I intend to keep our arrangement exclusive. I cross my arms, trying to match his bluntness. I trust you to handle your business, Alpha. I'm not here to manage your social calendar. We agreed on no strings and no complications, and I intend to stick to that. Cade steps closer, the scent of cedar and rain enveloping me. Have you done this before? Stood your ground so firmly against your Alpha? I'm a doctor, I reply, tilting my head. I'm used to dealing with difficult patients. He lets out a low, suave chuckle that vibrates through the night air. I'll see you soon, Kennedy. He disappears into the shadows to investigate a sound in the distance, but before I can head back inside, his companion from the bar steps into my path. She looks me up and down with an icy glare. You should know, she says, her voice sharp, that I'm Cade's partner. We're going to be mated soon. I raise an eyebrow unimpressed. Congrats. Sounds like a lot of paperwork for everyone involved. What? She gasps, her face turning red. From the shadows behind her, I hear that same deep, thundering laughter. Cade heard everything. I suppress a smirk. Maybe this no complications rule is going to be harder to follow than I thought. Chapter 4. Kennedy. I exhale with relief as the encounter ends, my eyes locking on the winding path ahead. I've realized that standard socialization isn't exactly my forte, but I certainly have a way of making my point when pushed. Cade was an unexpected distraction earlier, and now I have a mountain of thoughts to process. While the interaction relieved some of my restlessness, it hasn't made my life within the Pack any less complex. If anything, the lines are more blurred than ever. For the rest of the afternoon, I keep to myself, determined to finish my errands. I've spent far too much time within the sterile walls of the clinic lately. Today is Sunday, and I'd much rather be surrounded by the quiet hum of my cabin than the loud politics of the Pack. I'm passing the river when I see Briella. She's standing on a sun-drenched rock, projecting a bold, athletic confidence that I suspect is a shield for her own insecurities. I've seen her in the clinic. I know that underneath that armor, she's just as human, just as vulnerable as anyone else. Hi, Briella. How are you? I ask, keeping my tone civil. She smiles, but her attention is on the crowd behind her, hyper-aware of her audience. I'm great, Kennedy. I saw you with the Alpha earlier. You two seemed occupied. It was a professional matter, I reply, my voice flat. She crosses her arms. I think there's more to it than that. A doctor and an Alpha? People are talking. I'm not interested in rumors, Briella. Did you actually need medical assistance, or are you just enjoying the view? Her eyes flash. I just think you should know your place. Cade is important to all of us. He's our leader. I can sense the jealousy in her tone as clearly as the summer heat radiating off the rocks. I have to remind myself to stay professional. Briella, confidentiality is a two-way street. I suggest you focus on your own well-being and your recent recovery. It would be a shame for your progress to be hindered by unnecessary stress. She blinks, the implication of my words, that I know her medical history, hitting home. Never mind, she mutters, turning away. I have to go. Watching her rush back to her friends, I feel a heavy sigh escape me. I head back toward the woods, the silence of the trees finally beginning to soothe the irritation in my chest. By the time I reach my cabin, the sun is dipping below the horizon. My home is small, minimal, and isolated, exactly how I like it. Maybe the others are right. Maybe I am the most guarded person in the territory. But in this quiet space, I don't have to perform. As the weekend closes, I find myself sitting in my favorite chair with a book, but my mind keeps drifting. Cade is a force of nature. He's been staring into my soul since the moment he walked into my clinic, and I'm starting to realize that no matter how much I read, no fictional hero can match the intensity of the man currently occupying my thoughts. I hear the deep, familiar rhythm of the woods outside. It's quiet now. I'm alone with my thoughts and the lingering sense of a life that is becoming much more interesting and much more dangerous than I ever intended. Chapter 5. Kennedy. Time does its thing, making the weekend fly by and the week drag on. Work at the clinic is a whirlwind of activity that keeps me distracted, but I often find myself glancing at the door, wondering if a certain alpha will walk through it. He never did. I'm not sure what that silence means for our arrangement, but I've lived a quiet life before, and I can do it again. It's Saturday now, and the pack is celebrating the summer festival. It's a beautiful evening. The air is thick with the scent of barbecue and blooming flowers. Everyone is outside, some in their wolf forms, most in human, thanking the moon for the change in seasons. It's a welcome change from the 4 white walls of my clinic. As I sip my lemonade, I wait for Chandler. She was supposed to meet me 10 minutes ago, but I suspect she's already deep into the festivities. Hello, Dr. Jameson, one of the pack elders, greets me with a warm smile. Hey, Jameson. Are you staying off that bad leg as I told you? Mostly, he chuckles. I'm just glad to see you out here relaxing, kid. You work too much. If you're not careful, you'll start looking as ancient as me. I laugh, giving him a playful wave as he disappears into the crowd. I finish my drink and decide I need to lean into the social energy. I walk over to the refreshment station set up on a nearby porch. Hey, document. I greet my neighbors and pick up a small glass. The atmosphere is vibrant, but it's nothing compared to the scent that suddenly hits my senses. Pine, cedar, and rain. Cade is here. He steps out of the main house, looking every bit the potent leader he is. His amber eyes find mine immediately across the crowded porch. He knows exactly what he's doing, giving me his undivided attention even with a beautiful woman accompanying him. I keep my back straight and my pace steady as I walk off the porch. I can feel his gaze following me, a line of heat trailing in my wake. Dr. Kennedy, he calls out. I stop so abruptly that the glass in my hand sways. Why is he calling for me in front of the entire pack? I turn and there they are. I wanted to thank you again for the care you provided last week, he says, his face a mask of cool indifference. I have nothing to hide, so I don't mirror his coldness. I let my features soften into a professional, yet knowing smile. You're very welcome, Alpha. I was pleased to see you avoided any strenuous activity this week. I know how important it is for a leader not to overexert himself when the stakes are high. A flicker of recognition crosses his face. He knows I'm calling him out for his week-long disappearance. I shouldn't be playing games with a man of his stature, but the magnetic pull between us is undeniable. Kennedy. Chandler's voice cuts through the tension. Excuse me, Alpha. I clear my throat and look at the woman beside him. Her shimmering dress is stunning, making my loose orange sundress feel simple, yet comfortable. I'm Sylvia. She smiles, and the kindness in her eyes is genuine. The pleasure is mine, I reply. I have no reason to dislike her. She's just another person navigating the Alpha's orbit. With a final glance at Cade, noting the way he's watching me, I leave to find Chandler. The rest of the evening is a blur of laughter and dancing. When a classic song comes on, I let loose, spinning and jumping with my friend. My skin glistens under the setting sun, and for the first time in a long time, I feel completely alive. No one owns me. I'm a creature of the moon, and while I might have my complexities, I am sturdy. I know my value. I catch Cade staring several times from the sidelines, looking frustrated that I'm enjoying myself so openly while he has to maintain his stoic appearance. I just grin and keep dancing. If he wants to be part of my world, he's going to have to keep up. Chapter 6. Kennedy. My day starts off surprisingly well. I tackled the bulk of my paperwork on Friday, so the clinic is peaceful. I'm so relaxed that Stellan, my technician, actually asks if I'm feeling all right. Apparently, my resting doctor face is usually much more severe, and my staff has grown accustomed to my perpetual focus. The peace lasts until a text from my mother, Gracelyn, vibrates on my desk. She's already on her way. My mother has a habit of announcing her arrival only when she's a day away, forcing me to rearrange my entire life to accommodate her. As my guarded expression returns, I see the clinic staff collectively sigh with relief. The serious Kennedy is back. I'm deep in thought when my next patients arrive, a couple in their 30s. The woman is vibrant and glowing, her baby bump just beginning to show. I jump into professional mode, but my mind is still half occupied with my mother's impending visit. At the end of the appointment, I hand over a referral sheet. Here are the details for your follow-up, I say. The woman's smile vanishes as she looks at the paper. What is this? Anjali? Who is Anjali? My heart drops. In my distraction, I've handed her a printout intended for a different patient. My apologies, I say, quickly retrieving the paper. That was a clerical error. This is your correct information. Be more careful, she snaps. I'm about to apologize again when her partner clears his throat, looking unusually pale. Anjali, is she really moving forward with her plans? I freeze. Anjali is keeping her situation a secret. The fact I cannot disclose the personal information of my patients, I say, my voice turning to ice. If you have questions about someone else, you'll have to ask them yourself. They leave in a huff, but the weight of the discovery stays with me. If he's influencing Anjali's choices while hiding a second life, he isn't just abrasive, he's manipulative. But as a doctor, my hands are tied until Anjali reaches out for help. By the time my mother arrives, my cabin is spotless. I've hidden every trace of my romance novels and prepared myself for the inevitable critique. You look tired, Kennedy, she says by way of greeting, fanning herself as we walk through the park grounds. You should be searching for a powerful partner instead of lingering in this clinic all day. A woman of your status needs a match that commands respect. I'm focused on my career, Mom, I reply, though I'm secretly thinking of Cade. If she knew how close I'd already gotten to the ultimate prize of the pack, she'd never let me hear the end of it. Of course, as if summoned by the thought, Cade appears near the pack house. He stands out in the crowd, his presence a magnetic force. Kennedy, my mother whispers, pinching my arm. Is that your alpha? Yes, I mutter, wanting to disappear as he walks straight toward us. Good day, Doctor, Cade says, his amber eyes dancing with hidden mischief. He looks at my mother and offers a suave, perfect smile. And hello to you, ma'am. Alpha Cade, this is my mother, Gracelyn, I introduce them, my heart racing. I hope Kennedy has been a diligent doctor, my mother says, batting her eyelashes. Cade's gaze shifts to me, lingering a second too long. Oh yes. She's very responsive. A dedicated professional most of the time. He's baiting me. Reminiscing about our arrangement right in front of the woman who would try to turn it into a wedding by next week. We should go, Mom, I say, tugging her hand. Don't be rude, she chastises, but I'm already moving. I can't be near him when he's in this mood. Don't make me chase you, Kennedy, Cade calls out, his voice booming across the square. I ignore him, my pace quickening. But Cade isn't a man who takes no for an answer. I hear a collective gasp from the surrounding pack members. And my mother as the air behind me shifts. Before I can take another step, Cade moves with startling, supernatural speed, his arm catching my waist and spinning me around to face him, leaving the world and my mother's expectations spinning in his wake. Chapter 7. Kennedy. Whenever I feel bad for myself, I remember that there are people out there who have it worse, starving, oppressed. Then I feel worse for being ungrateful for my life. Today, however, is not one of those days. I hear gasps around me and a sharp wheeze as I exhale. I hit the ground so hard that the air left my lungs in a rush. When I walked away from Cade, I made sure my head was high enough to make my mother proud. I looked like I was walking on a red carpet. Then, the carpet was pulled out from under me. I tripped over my own feet and my dignity went flying. Ouch, I hiss, trying to steady my shaking hands. The impact left a mark, but the embarrassment is what's truly bruising. I'd rather have a fire alarm go off in a quiet library than crawl on my hands and knees in front of Cade and my mother. A shadow falls over me. "Give me your hand," Cade says. There is no mocking in his tone, but I still want to disappear. He doesn't wait for me to decide. He takes my forearms and easily lifts me to my feet as if I weigh nothing at all. "You shouldn't have rushed," he murmurs. He brushes a loose curl over my shoulder, his fingers lingering a second too long. He doesn't step away, seemingly unbothered that the entire pack is watching us from inches away. I take a careful step back, then another. I'm not interested in falling again. When I look past him, I find my mother watching with an intense, calculating look. She's probably already picking out flower arrangements for a future I'm not ready for. My house. Now. Cade takes my hand and directs me away from the field. I follow only because the scene with my mother is even more daunting than my alpha's command. We enter the foyer of his ancestral home. It's a massive space, much too big for one person, but I don't take a single step further. I'm not here for a tour. What was that, Cade? You had no right to imply anything in front of my mother. This is supposed to be a private arrangement. His voice drops into a low, resonant frequency that vibrates in my chest. First, you will not undermine me in front of the pack or in private. Respect is paramount. I scoff, finding a spark of defiance. You're upset about my tone? I'm not the one playing games. I tried to maintain distance, and I've never disclosed our arrangement. Why can't you do the same? You lead a pack, yet you're the one complicating this. He moves quickly, stepping into my personal space until I'm backed against the heavy oak door. He doesn't touch me, but his intensity is a physical weight. You're good at hiding, Kennedy, but I see through the image you paint. You're not just a doctor who disappears after work. You're sharp, spirited, and you were testing my patience at the festival. I don't like how well he reads me. I'm used to being the observer, the one analyzing the story, not the one under the microscope. What do you want from me, Cade? Acknowledgement, he says, his voice a low command. Stay. Face this connection instead of running back to your cabin to hide. I let out a frustrated breath. I won't be ordered into a role I didn't choose. The choice is yours, he counters, his amber eyes locking onto mine. But stop pretending you don't feel the pull as strongly as I do. The tension reaches a breaking point. For a long moment, we simply stare at one another. A silent battle of wills between the alpha who demands order and the doctor who demands independence. I realize then that he doesn't just want my presence. He wants me to admit that he has a place in my world. I meet his challenge, refusing to look away until I've made my point. I am his equal, not his subordinate. Finally, I step back, breaking the spell. I've given him my answer, but on my terms. On my way out, I notice a bottle of scented detergent sitting near the door. I grab it, walking down the steps onto the grass. When there's enough distance, I turn. Cade is standing in the doorway, watching me with a look of stunned fascination. I uncapped the bottle and, in one swift motion, poured the liquid over my hair and my clothes. The overwhelming scent of spring flowers erupts, instantly masking any trace of him, or my own scent, that might linger. You may be my alpha, Cade, I shout, the floral scent trailing behind me, but I am my own person. I turn and run toward the woods, my laughter lost to the wind, leaving the most powerful man in the territory standing alone in his own doorway. Chapter 8. Kennedy. As I walk home, I keep checking behind me for Cade and ahead for my mother. I feel trapped between two overwhelming forces. I pass several curious pack members on my way, but at least the details of what happened at Cade's house remain private. When I reach my cabin, I find my mother pacing outside. There is no way to avoid her. I have to get inside, clear my head, and head to work. Kennady, she says when she spots me, her eyes sparkling. This is the most animated I've seen her in years. Hi, Mom. I'm going to get ready for the clinic. Forget that for a moment. What happened back there with the alpha? She reaches out, her hand tightening around my arm. Don't be modest. I saw how he focused on you. This is exactly what I meant about finding a partner who commands respect. My chest tightens. She's impressed by a version of me that doesn't exist, yet she seems indifferent to the career and the life I've actually built. I feel like I'll never meet her expectations unless I change who I am. I need to get to work, Mom. Excuse me. I rush inside and lock the bathroom door, leaning against it to catch my breath. I scrub at my skin, trying to clear the lingering scent of pine and floral detergent. A small, defiant smile touches my lips as I remember the stunned look on Cade's face earlier. I must be out of my mind to keep challenging him like this. Getting involved was a distraction I didn't need. Distance is the only professional choice. I decide then and there to look into a transfer to another pack. I'll fill out the paperwork, have him sign it, and move on to a place where life is quiet again. The next morning, silver sunlight streams through the window. I'm running late. I rush through my routine and head out, shielding my folders against the light and misty rain. It would be easier if you put those in your bag, Doctor. A deep, gravelly baritone stops me in my tracks. I look up to find a man leaning against a moss-covered tree. He has a rugged, striking appearance, his presence as untamed as the woods around us. Alpha Blackwell, I say, dipping my chin. Good morning. I try to move past him. Cade's brother doesn't live with our pack, and his reputation as a rebel is well known. I've learned to keep my distance from the men in this family. As I hurry by, a slip of paper escapes my folder, fluttering toward the damp grass. We both reach for it at the same time. Our fingers meet on the paper, and I look up into dark eyes that are just as intense as Cade's, but with a different, more dangerous edge. Suddenly, a thunderous growl echoes through the trees, a sound of pure, territorial dominance. Cade has arrived. He appears from the shadows of the trail, moving with the speed of a storm. The air pressure in the woods seems to shift as he charges toward us. I jump back as the brothers face off, a blur of supernatural strength and ancient rivalry. My carefully organized transfer papers scatter into the wind, dancing away like autumn leaves. No, I yell. Stop. They don't listen. They are locked in a fierce confrontation of wills, and as I watch them, I realize that my plans for a quiet life just blew away with the wind. Chapter 9. Kennady. I am not always the most objective person. My lapse in judgment was vast enough that I couldn't hide it behind my medical degree. I was impulsive enough to enter into a private arrangement with my alpha, after all. As frustrated as I am, however, I know better than to jump between two brawling wolves. The air in the clearing is thick with ancient, territorial power as Cade and his brother collide. When the patrolmen finally separate them, the silence that follows is even more deafening than the growls. Both men are injured, their breathing heavy and ragged. Cade, I breathe, taking a step forward. He shifts back to his human form, but the intensity of the wolf still burns in his amber eyes. I've never seen him so unbridled. He looks at his blood-stained thigh, then up at me with a sharp, piercing command. Go, Kennady. Now. You're bleeding, Alpha. Let me. That's a command. He snarls. I know where to draw the line. This is a critical situation between siblings, and if he doesn't want my help, I can't force it. I gather my belongings, including my now-soiled transfer papers, and walk away, my mind spinning. Was he truly jealous? It's a bold conclusion, but alphas aren't known for sharing. I arrive late at the clinic, skipping lunch to make up for the lost time. My energy is low, and a headache is starting to throb behind my eyes. I'm mid-report when my door opens, and the very last person I expect to see steps inside. Cade looks like a dark cloud threatening a storm. A large patch of blood stains his jeans, but he ignores the injury, walking straight to my desk. I need to know what happened between you and my brother, he demands, leaning over my workspace. I exhale, setting my pen down. Actually, I was going to ask you that. Why did you attack him? Am I not allowed to talk to anyone else? Were you jealous? He stares at me, his expression a mask of stone. You're a partner of mine, Kennedy. You are not my Luna, and therefore not entitled to my jealousy. I attacked him because he was trespassing. Now, tell me what he said. The dismissal stings more than I care to admit. I sit up straighter, finding my own shield of cold professionalism. He commented on the papers I was carrying. My transfer request. I'm leaving this pack, Cade. The shift in him is instantaneous. The tension in his arms becomes stark, his palms pressing into my desk. I don't think so, he grits out. You can't just walk away from this clinic. It's not the clinic you're worried about, I counter, standing up to meet his height. You just don't want your convenience to walk away. This arrangement is dangerous, Cade. I'm trying to be the mature one and leave before we distract the entire pack. In a blur of movement, he's around the desk, the space between us vanishing. The heat radiating off him is overwhelming, an intense energy that makes my breath hitch. He doesn't touch me with force, but the way he captures my gaze is its own kind of restraint. Be careful of your injury, I hiss, my heart racing. You want me to sign those papers? He murmurs, his face inches from mine. Fine, Kennedy. But you won't leave. You care about this pack and this connection too much to walk away. Before I can find a retort, he kisses me. A sudden, electric spark that's over as quickly as it began. He releases me, stepping back with a look of grim satisfaction. Send me the paperwork if you have the nerve. He slams the door, leaving me breathless and reeling. Chandler rushes in seconds later, her eyes wide. Kennedy, did you just yell at the Alpha? Are you trying to get exiled? I grab my folder, ready to chase him down, but Chandler catches my arm, pulling me back against the wall. Chill, girl, she whispers. You're being reckless. Breathe. I force myself to calm down as I watch the clinic door swing shut. Cade is gone, and the folder in my hand is crumpled in my fist. He thinks he's won, but he's forgotten one thing. A doctor knows exactly where the pressure points are. Chapter 10. Kennedy. I finish my shift at the clinic without any further drama. Chandler checks on me a few times, her eyes full of 1,000 unasked questions, but she gives me the space I need. I respect her for that. As I walk home, I feel the weight of the week in my shoulders. My mother would probably have a sharp comment about my posture, but for once, I'm too tired to care about the polished image she expects. She left tonight, driving off with a final stream of advice and a hug that reminded me of orange sunsets and messy childhood games. Despite our differences, the quiet she leaves behind in the cabin feels a little too heavy. The transfer papers were ruined in the scuffle with the brothers, so I reprint them, my pen scratching against the paper in the silence. I think of Cade's challenge, but I don't have the strength to face him tonight. Every step toward finalizing my departure feels like a step back into the gray. A few days pass in a blur of clinical routine. I know I'll have to talk to Chandler eventually, but first, I need to resolve things with the Alpha. I head to the pack house to deliver the final paperwork, but he's nowhere to be found. I slip the folder under his office door and walk home, a strange mix of pride and loss twisting in my chest. I thought our agreement was that you'd hand those to me personally. I nearly jump out of my skin. Cade is standing in the shadows of my living room, his presence filling the small space. For goodness sake, Cade. You startled me. I grip the arms of my chair, my heart racing. You can't just appear in my home. I knocked, Kennedy. You were lost in thought, he says, stepping into the light. He sits across from me, occupying the same space my mother did just hours ago. He places the folder on the table between us. I'm here because of these. I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. I intertwine my fingers, trying to remain detached. Things change. People move on. Cade's eyes lock onto mine with an intensity one haven't seen before, a warmth that feels entirely new. The papers themselves are the mistake, Kennedy. I don't want you to go. I'm not signing these. Why? I ask, the only question that matters. I would miss our connection, he says firmly. He isn't pleading. He speaks with the weight of a man who finally understands his own heart. I enjoy your company. Your spirit. The way you challenge me. Don't go. I look at him, stunned. You want to continue this? Our arrangement. I want to do more than that, he counters. If the secrecy is what's making this difficult, then I'm willing to be open. I want the pack to know you're with me. I smirk, remembering our standoff. I used that detergent to mask your scent for a reason, Cade. I chose my own path. Yes, his lip quirks in a rare, genuine smile. And your defiance is exactly what draws me in. But I want to resolve this. I want you to stay. I shake my head, the reality of our lives crashing back in. I'm a doctor, Cade. I like the quiet. You are the opposite of quiet. If I stand with you, the whole world will be watching, and I just want to practice medicine. A long silence stretches between us, a finality that feels like a physical weight. Finally, Cade stands, his shadow stretching across the floor. He walks over to me, and for a moment, the alpha disappears, leaving only the man behind. He leans down and plants a gentle, lingering kiss on my forehead. Think on it, Kennedy, he whispers. Then he's gone, disappearing into the night as silently as he arrived, leaving me alone in the quiet cabin with a choice that no book could ever prepare me for. Chapter 11. Kennedy. Chandler has been walking on eggshells around me. The usual stream of jokes has dried up, and I can feel the weight of suppressed thoughts vibrating off her. The pressure in the clinic is reaching a boiling point. I know I need to be honest with her about my arrangement with Cade and my decision to request a transfer. She's my closest friend here, the only nurse I've truly connected with. Her energy is the heartbeat of this clinic, and she deserves the truth before I disappear into a new life. After Cade left my cabin last night, I sat in the dark and realized we aren't a match. He's an alpha meant to lead. I'm a doctor meant to challenge. I am as far from being his Luna as I am from the moon itself. Kennedy. Chandler bursts into my office, her face unusually pale. I immediately shift into professional mode. What is it? A trauma case. She looks devastated as she closes the door. It's about Anjali, your young patient. Kennedy. She's gone. There was a sudden, heartbreaking loss this morning. She didn't make it. The world goes cold. My lungs ache for oxygen as a hollow numbness spreads through my chest. Anjali was only 18. How could a life with so much ahead of it just end? I collapse into my chair, my hands pulling at my hair. Was there an explanation? A note. They found part of a message, Chandler whispers. It mentioned a mate, which is confusing since she didn't have one on record. The first page is missing. My mind flashes to Milt. He was the common denominator between Anjali and my other patient. He was playing a double game, pressuring a vulnerable girl while hiding behind a mask of support. I grip my desk so hard though it groans. I want to hold him accountable, but without proof, my hands are tied by the very professional ethics I've spent years upholding. The rest of the day is a blur. I feel like a ghost haunting my own clinic. When I finally leave, the wind is cold and biting as I head toward the only place that feels like it might hold an answer. Doctor. The voice makes my skin crawl. I turn to find Milt standing in the shadows of the trail. You know about Anjali and me, don't you? He asks, his tone a sickening mix of fear and malice. He's checking to see if his secret stayed silent. Today is not the day, Milt, I say, my voice vibrating with suppressed rage. Kennedy and Cade, he calls out as I turn to walk away. That's a secret that would shake this pack to its core, wouldn't it? Think about that before you go making any reports to the Alpha. He's threatening me. He wants to use my private life to buy my silence about what happened to Anjali. I don't give him the satisfaction of a reply. I just keep walking until I reach Cade's door. When he opens it, he's still damp from a shower, his hair dark and messy. He takes one look at my face and his expression shifts to immediate, sharp concern. What happened? He asks, pulling me inside and shutting out the world. You can tell. I whisper. I know you, Kennedy. He doesn't ask for details yet. He just wraps his arms around me, his scent of rain and cedar acting as a temporary shield against the grief. I cling to him, my strength finally failing as the weight of Anjali's tragedy and Milt's threats breaks through my defenses. I'm leaving, Cade, I sob into his chest. I need to transfer packs. I can't stay here anymore. He doesn't let go. He just holds me tighter, his voice a low, steady rumble against my hair. I've got you. I'll take care of it. Chapter 12. Kennedy. Cade pulls back, his expression solemn. We'll address the transfer shortly. First, you need to tell me what is truly weighing on you. I exhale, deciding that the truth is the fastest way out of this room. It's about Anjali. Before the sudden tragedy of her loss, she told me she was being pressured by her partner. I believe her final message was tampered with to protect him. You need to investigate Milt. Cade doesn't miss a beat. He nods, his hand resting steady on my shoulder. I will handle the investigation. As for your transfer, I'll need 3 months to find a suitable replacement. 3 months. I retort. That's far too long. It's a specialized role, Kennedy. It takes time. He doesn't look bothered by my frustration. He's approving the move, but he's making the transition a slow burn. I've also noted your extra hours at the clinic. I'm ensuring you receive a significant bonus for your dedication. I appreciate the recognition, but it won't change my mind. Thank you. I hope to hear about the investigation soon. The next month passes in a blur of routine. I focus on my patients and spend more time with Chandler, trying to heal from the guilt I felt over Anjali's sudden passing. I even started seeing a therapist to process the tragedy. It's been a journey of self-discovery. I realized I'd become so entwined with the work that I'd left no room for myself to breathe. I'm resting in the grass outside my cabin one afternoon when I drift off to sleep. When I wake, I find a shirt draped over a branch, shielding my face from the harsh sun. It carries the unmistakable scent of cedar and rain. Cade. He was here, watching over me while I slept, and yet he didn't wake me. Then comes the storm. I've always loved the rain. I shift into my wolf form and run deep into the woods, letting the downpour wash away the stress of the past few weeks. I lose track of time, lost in the rhythm of the forest, until the scent of other werewolves hits me. We found her, voices shout through the trees. I realize with a jolt of embarrassment that the pack thinks I'm missing. Flashlights cut through the dark, and suddenly I'm surrounded by 24 searchers. Then the heavy, commanding scent of Cade arrives. Turn around, he barks at the pack. They obey instantly, facing away to give me privacy. Shift back, Kennedy. I hesitate, and I hear his voice drop to a low, intimate whisper. It's a little too late to be shy around me. I shift back, and before the cold can even touch my skin, I am wrapped in the heat of his presence. He drapes his heavy coat around my shoulders, securing me against his chest. My heart races. Alpha, why was I declared missing? His hands steady me, his voice husky with a relief he can't quite hide. Because you were gone for 5 hours in a literal deluge. What were you doing out here? I lost track of time, I admit, biting my lip. Cade reaches out, his thumb catching my lip in the dark. You worried me, he says, loud enough for the departing search party to hear. Please disband them, I whisper, feeling the awkwardness of the spectacle. Go home, everyone, he commands. The pack vanishes into the rain, leaving us alone in the mud and the mist. He looks down at me, his eyes dark with an intensity that makes the cold disappear. What am I going to do with you, Kennedy? I pull back just an inch, the reality of the situation, and the connection I'm trying so hard to leave behind, crashing over me like the storm. Chapter 13. Kennedy. A frown cracks between my brows. It's simple, Alpha. You let me explore the woods without sending a search party after me, and I'll promise to keep better track of the time. I pull the heavy coat he draped over me tighter, trying to regain some sense of composure. Cade flicks his flashlight on, his expression unimpressed. Kennedy, we've been past the point of formalities. Your worrying the entire pack is a matter of leadership, not just your personal schedule. It's been over a month since things have changed, I counter, trying to find my footing in the damp grass. Are you pouting, doctor? No. I'm walking away now. With my dignity clutched tightly, I turn to head back toward the cabin. Cade lets out a low chuckle behind me, undoubtedly watching my retreat. Intriguing, he murmurs. I speed up, frustrated. This was supposed to be a refreshing run to clear my head, but Cade has a way of muddying everything. I'm so lost in thought that I don't see the slick patch of mud ahead. My foot slides, and there's a wet splash as I go down. Ouch! I know I've sprained my ankle before I even try to move. Cade is there in a flash, kneeling beside me in the mud. He checks my leg with professional focus, his hands steady and warm against the evening chill. It's all right, I hiss as the pain sears through my ankle. It will heal. Did you break anything? He demands, his voice tight with genuine concern. I've got it, thank you, I say, trying to find a branch to use as a crutch. But the woods are damp, and I have nothing to secure a splint. Cade sees the wheels turning in my head. Let me help, Kennedy, he says, his voice dropping to that low, resonant frequency. Let me in. I chuckle bitterly. Letting you in is exactly how we ended up in this complicated situation. I'm talking about your safety. I've seen your strength, Kennedy, but right now you need mine. He doesn't wait for a rebuttal. I'm responsible for you. You aren't responsible for me just because you're the alpha, I argue, though my heart is betraying me, thumping wildly against my ribs. I'm responsible for you because you're mine, he corrects, his eyes locking onto mine with a fierce, possessive heat. My breath hitches. No matter how much I tell myself I'm leaving, my instincts respond to him with a pull that's impossible to ignore. He sweeps me up into his arms, carrying me as if I weigh nothing at all. Don't say things like that, I whisper into the rain. Someone might hear you. Have you forgotten I'm transferring? Then go, he says, his voice a steady rumble against my ear. But no distance will change what's between us. Every time you feel a chill, your body will remember this heat. I resort to frustration to hide my reaction. Cade, you are unbelievable. He simply pulls me closer, shielding my injury from the wind. He walks with a steady, tireless pace through the mist and the trees. For the next 2 hours, the pain in my ankle subsides, replaced by the overwhelming warmth of being held by him. When we finally reach the edge of my backyard, he sets me down gently. Wait, he says as I turn to head inside. There's something we need to discuss. It's about Milt. My attention shifts instantly. You found something? I discovered a connection between Milt and a high-ranking beta from another pack. There's a gathering for chosen mates next week. It's a formal event, and it's the perfect opportunity to investigate without raising suspicion. He pauses. I need a partner for the evening. And you want me? I ask, alarmed. I don't fit in with that crowd, Cade. We'll just end up bickering. You should take Sylvia. Cade lets out a short, sharp laugh. You're suggesting another woman over yourself? You truly are unpredictable, Kennedy. I don't need a timid partner for this. I need someone with your spirit. I need someone who isn't afraid of the truth. He is so certain, so intense, that I find it impossible to look away. If I agree to this, we will be more entwined than ever, and my deadline to leave is only 2 months away. Fine, I cave, thinking of Anjali. For the investigation. Nothing more. Cade smirks, a look of triumph crossing his face. Good. Wear something elegant. I want the entire territory to see exactly who is standing by my side. Cade. I sputter. This is an investigation, not a debut. He doesn't answer, just disappears into the shadows of the trees with a lingering, satisfied glance, leaving me standing in the damp grass with a racing heart and a very complicated week ahead. Chapter 15. Kennedy. Cade understands the rhythm of this world with a precision that feels entirely intentional. In the shadows of the balcony, we are a study in contradictions. To any passerby, we look like a couple romantically swaying to the music, lost in a moment of innocent intimacy. It's a carefully crafted mask. There is nothing simple about the magnetic pull that defines us, even as we try to maintain our professional distance. We've become experts at the polite detachment required by our roles, but in the moonlight, the clinical boundaries between Doctor and Alpha feel like they're dissolving. He eventually pulls back, his amber eyes tracing the breathlessness in my gaze. The intensity in his expression is a silent acknowledgement of everything we aren't saying out loud. "I've been waiting all night for this," he murmurs, his voice low and resonant against the evening air. I'm left momentarily stunned, leaning into the steady beat of his heart. For a second, the rest of the pack, the investigation, and the watchful eyes inside the ballroom don't matter. "Hey, Cade! Get back in here," a voice bellows from the party. I freeze, the reality of the gala crashing back in. Cade lets out a sharp breath of frustration and quickly scans our surroundings. Spotting a glass of spirits on a nearby table, he makes a split-second decision. With a quick motion, he tips the glass, letting the liquid splash across his sleeve and the hem of my dress. He uses his tie to dampen the rest, the sharp, medicinal scent of the liquid immediately masking our own scent. Our eyes meet, and the look he gives me is hooded and intense, a shared secret that burns hotter than the distraction he just created. "Cade," the voice calls again. "God damn it," he huffs, taking my hand and leading me back into the bright lights of the crowd. "Whoa, what happened to you two?" Alpha Darius asks, his nose wrinkling at the scent of spirits trailing off us. "Clumsy spill," Cade says smoothly, his face a mask of alpha indifference. "The doctor here is a bit out of her element in heels." "Is that so?" Darius smirks, his eyes twinkling with a mischief that suggests he isn't entirely fooled. "It looked like quite the tumble. Whoa, what happened to you two? HT, Alpha, I lie," my voice remarkably steady despite the heat rising in my neck. Cade escorts me toward the exit, shaking a few hands as we make our hurried escape to the car. I lower the window to let the cool night air wash away the heavy scent of the spirits, staring out at the dark road while Cade looks out the opposite window. The silence lasts until we finally arrive back at my cabin. Cade walks me to the porch, the grass cool beneath my bare feet as I carry my heels. "So here we are," he says as the porch light flickers on. I stop short. A figure is waiting in the shadows. It's Sylvia. Her eyes are red, her posture slumped with a weight that makes my heart ache. "Cade," she whispers. "I heard you went to the gathering with Kennedy and I had to see for myself." She looks at me, and a wave of genuine guilt washes over me. This is the mess I tried so hard to avoid. "Sylvia," Cade says, his voice careful but firm. "Is everything all right?" "I'm just so embarrassed," she says softly. "I needed to know where we stood." Are you with her now?" I want the ground to open up. I try to move past her to reach my door, feeling like an intruder in my own life. "Sylvia, I thought I was clear," Cade says, his voice dropping into a steady, honest rumble. "We are friends, and I value that. But I never promised a future beyond that. I'm sorry if my intentions were misunderstood." Sylvia let out a broken "So, are you with her now?" into the night. I watch her disappear into the trees, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. "Go," I tell him, the words sticking in my throat. "Make sure she gets home safe, Cade. She shouldn't be out there alone." He lets out an exasperated sigh, running a hand through his hair, but he nods. He takes off after her, leaving me standing alone on my porch. The next morning, the events of the night before weigh heavily on my mind. I walk into the clinic and immediately find Chandler. She isn't her usual bubbly self. She won't even look up from her charts. "Go ahead," I sigh. "Tell me I look like I haven't slept." Chandler pulls me into the supply room, her expression grim. "There are some nasty rumors going around, Kennedy. Nasty ones." The next morning, the events of the night before weigh heavily on my mind. "And now people are saying you're the wedge that drove them apart." She bites her lip, looking genuinely worried. The gossip is intense. Everyone is talking, and they aren't being kind. The idea of being the center of a pack-wide scandal makes there are some nasty rumors going around, Kennedy.to Cade, but I didn't realize how quickly the pack would turn my quiet life into a public spectacle. "It'll pass, Chandler," I say, though my voice lacks conviction. Rumors always do. But as I look at my friend's worried face, I realize that in this pack, Secrets have a way of becoming shadows that never truly leave. Chapter 14. Kennady. As I stare at my closet, I realize I have very few options for such a prestigious event. The requirement is a floor-length Blackwell gown with a sophisticated slit that allows for movement. It has a modest neckline, but reveals a bit of skin at the back where the straps crisscross. It's designed to be graceful, yet I know that the moment Cade sees me, his focus will be entirely on me. He doesn't care much for concealing his attraction, and his presence has a way of filling every room he enters. I groan, checking my reflection. Is this the work of the moon goddess? I can't seem to shake this man's influence. I apply a deep red lipstick and pull my hair into a sleek, professional bun. This is as alpha-adjacent as I can get. A knock sounds at the door. I've instructed Cade to come to the back entrance to remain discreet, and I'm quick to pull him inside. Cade! I hiss, closing the door behind him. Wow, he breathes, his amber eyes widening. What? I ask, fighting the warmth rising in my cheeks. He's looking at me as if I'm the only person in the world. You look incredible, Kennedy, he says, his voice dropping an octave. I have a feeling I'm going to find it very difficult to focus on anything else tonight. My heart races. My body is responding to his presence just as he predicted. Stop being ridiculous, I say, trying to rebuild my professional wall. He steps forward, his hands resting lightly on my waist. He doesn't pull me in with force, but the magnetic heat between us is undeniable. Just give me a second, he murmurs, his gaze lingering on mine before he steps back. Let's go. The car is on the main road. The drive to Alpha Darius's territory is a blur of luxury. Cade looks magnificent in a three-piece tuxedo, radiating a level of confidence that makes my attraction to him feel like a binding contract I never signed. We arrive at a sprawling estate teeming with the nation's most powerful leaders. Cade steps out first, offering his hand to help me from the car. Cade! Alpha Darius greets us, his scent marking him as a formidable leader. He shakes Cade's hand before his eyes find mine. And who is this? Introduce me, friend. Down, Darius, Cade grumbles playfully, his arm instinctively finding the small of my back. Don't make me start a rivalry at your own celebration. The night is surprisingly pleasant. I meet alphas, lunas, and betas, and to my relief, they are welcoming. I find myself relaxing, even as I keep my eyes peeled for our target. There he is, Cade whispers near my ear. Beta Aegon. We approach a man who looks strangely disheveled compared to the polished crowd. Hope your business in my territory last month went well. Did my beta help you with those contracts? Yes, Aegon replies instantly, though he won't meet Cade's eyes. Thank you for the safe passage. If you'll excuse me, I need a moment. He disappears into the crowd, and Cade leans toward me. He's lying. My beta was out of the territory for the entire month. Whisper. A surge of adrenaline hits me. What's next? I'll look into his movements further, Cade says, his gaze intensifying. But for now, dance with me? No one is dancing, Cade, I protest. People would stare. The balcony, then. Come. I follow him out into the cool evening air. The music from the ballroom is a distant hum, eclipsed by the sound of the wind in the trees. Cade takes my hand and wraps an arm around my waist, moving us slowly in the moonlight. This is far too intimate. I keep my eyes on his tie, afraid that if I look up, I'll lose my resolve entirely. He draws me closer, his touch becoming more focused as we move together. I've been waiting all night for this, he murmurs. Watching you in that room. It's been a challenge to stay focused on business. F my dress and my breath hitches. The risk of being recognized by the guests inside adds a sharp edge to the heat between us. His focus is entirely on the rhythm of the moment. It's risky and far from professional, but as the moonlight spills over the balcony, all I want is to be closer to the man who has managed to turn my world upside down. Chapter 16. Kennedy. My mind feels like it's betraying me. I try to focus on my clinical charts, but my thoughts drift back to that night on the balcony. Cade faced me with such raw emotion, only to end the night by ensuring Sylvia's safety. I won't lie and say it didn't hurt. Even though I was the one who encouraged him to go, a quiet part of me wished he had stayed. I'm not angry. He did the right thing. But Sylvia's despair feels heavy, and I can't judge her for catching feelings when I find myself in a similarly precarious position. A knock at my office door breaks my reverie. Grateful for the distraction, I go to greet my next patient. Hey, Hannah, I smile, looking around for her daughter. Where is the little one? Hannah crosses her arms, her posture stiff. She won't be coming, Kennedy. I appreciate your service, but I've decided to transfer her to another clinic. I don't want her exposed to certain influences. My heart plummets. The embarrassment is a physical weight. This is about the rumors? I ask quietly. I'm looking for a different environment for my child, she says vaguely before walking away. I'm left devastated. Over the next 2 days, the pattern solidifies. 9 patients have transferred out. I feel like a pariah in my own pack. I've started wearing oversized shirts and avoiding common paths, hoping that if I'm less visible, the gossip will simply starve for lack of attention. By Thursday, the isolation is too much. I head to a quiet corner of the local lounge, needing a moment of peace. The air smells faintly of cedar, a sharp reminder of Cade. I've barely sat down when my phone buzzes. It's Cade. I don't answer. I'm not in the headspace for his intensity right now. Dr. Kennedy, a voice sneers. I look up to see Milt. A smirk spreads across his face, and I know trouble has found me. Maybe you should spend your time with someone who actually appreciates you, he calls out, loud enough for the few patrons to hear. Why stay with the alpha when you could have more fun elsewhere? My hands clench into fists. I try to walk away, to be the bigger person, but the injustice of it all, Anjali, the rumors, the judgment, boils over. You have a lot of nerve, Milt, I say, turning to face him. Especially for someone who pressured a young girl into a desperate situation. Why aren't you reflecting on the lives you've impacted instead of spreading malice here? His face pales. The satisfaction of seeing him falter is a small victory, but as I walk out, I know I've likely just fueled the fire. A loud, official knock awakens me early the next morning. I slip on a robe and peek outside to find 2 men in suits holding formal documents. Who are you? I ask. The Medical Ethics Board. You'll have to come with us, Doctor. We have questions regarding a professional complaint filed against you. My shoulders drop. Milt. This unraveled so fast. All right, I agree, offering no resistance. Just let me change. I turn back toward my room, but a familiar, commanding voice stops everything. What is going on here? It's Cade. He's jogging across my yard, his expression dark with a protective fury I've only seen a few times. Good morning, Alpha Cade, one of the men says. We are escorting the doctor for questioning regarding a breach of professional conduct. Cade steps between the officials and me, his presence an immovable wall of authority. Like hell you are, he says, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. You aren't taking her anywhere without a representative present. This is my territory, and you are trespassing. Get off my property. Chapter 17. Kennedy. Cade is a force of nature when his protective instincts are triggered. He stands on my porch, his presence like a storm cloud ready to unleash its fury on the men in suits. Cade, I speak up, but his sharp gaze doesn't relax. Alpha Cade, we are here because the doctor allegedly disclosed sensitive patient data. The investigator starts. I am fully aware of the accusations, Cade's voice booms, resonating with a power that makes the air itself feel heavy. What I fail to understand is why you think you can enter my territory to apprehend one of my pack members without my explicit authorization. This is my jurisdiction. He crosses his arms, a wall of pure authority. I find it hard to look away. No matter how much I try to maintain my independence, seeing him stand between me and this professional disaster is affecting. But I can't let him fight my battles for me. Thank you for coming, I say, stepping forward. But I have this under control. I'm prepared to answer for my actions. Cade's eyes flicker to mine, intense and unyielding. Alpha Cade, this is a serious breach of professional ethics, the investigator persists. Do not question my intelligence. Cade's voice cracks like thunder. You are in my territory. I will investigate these charges within the laws of my pack and decide on the resolution. Now, leave before I personally escort you to the border. The officers exchange a look, their posture shrinking as they realize Cade isn't bluffing. They retreat down the stairs, their official confidence crumbling under his gaze. I watch them go, letting out a long, frustrated sigh. You didn't have to do that, Cade. You shouldn't have. He closes the distance between us, his energy still humming with tension. You drive me to the edge of insanity, Kennedy. Why would you confront Milt? We were so close to finding the evidence to hold him accountable for what happened to Anjali. We just needed one more piece of the puzzle. I run a hand through my hair, the weight of my mistake hitting me. I know I messed up. My impulse might have ruined everything. But I should face the consequences, not get a pass because of us. Stop doing that. He steps closer, his hands firmly gripping my arms not with force, but with a grounding intensity. Stop simplifying this. You know this is more than just an arrangement. You are important to me, Kennedy. To this pack. I look away, trying to protect my heart, but he won't let me hide. In one swift, surprising move, he sits on the top porch step and pulls me down beside him. Do you feel that? He asks, his voice dropping to a low, intimate rumble. The way your heart races? That is exactly how you make me feel. Let's stop the games and make this official. Kennedy, become my Luna. The world seems to tilt. I stare at him, certain I've begun to hallucinate. Cade, are you asking me to be your equal? To lead this entire pack beside you? Yes, he says, his gaze as steady as a mountain. Move in with me. Let's build a future. As Luna, you wouldn't just be a doctor, you could build the systems to support women in Anjali's position. You could transform how we care for our people. I scramble to my feet, my mind reeling. No, Cade, I'm barely keeping my head above water as a doctor right now. I can't lead a pack. This is too much. You are more fit for this than anyone I've ever known, he counters, standing to face me. You're intelligent, you read people, and you have a perspective this pack desperately needs. Kennedy. The voice comes from the yard. I turn to see Sylvia standing there, looking tentative. My defensive walls go up instantly. I've endured the gossip and the judgment of the pack for weeks, and I will not have my home, my safe haven, turned into a public square. No, Sylvia. We aren't doing this, I say, my voice firm. It is incredibly inconsiderate to show up at my home unannounced. Whatever you need to say could have been handled through a call or a letter. I'm asking you to leave. I place my hands on my hips, standing my ground. I'm done with the disrespect and the chaos. I need a moment of peace, even if the man standing behind me is offering me the world. Chapter 18. Kennedy. Sylvia looks surprised by my outburst, but she composes herself quickly, playing the victim with practiced ease. She knows I'm facing scrutiny from the pack, yet she stands on my property acting as if she is the one being persecuted. Actually, I'm not here for personal reasons, she declares, her voice loud enough to carry. The clinic needs your signature on the intake forms, and I decided to stop by to inform you. I feel a mix of embarrassment and cold anger. Is she telling the truth, or did she plan this encounter knowing I wouldn't welcome the intrusion? You will speak to the doctor with respect, Cade intervenes, his voice a low, dangerous rumble that vibrates in the air. She holds a high rank in this pack, Sylvia. Remember that. Sylvia's expression softens instantly when she looks at him. To her, I'm an obstacle, but Cade is the sun she orbits. Cade, I am just trying to be helpful, she says softly. Helpful? I press, finally tired of biting my tongue. Who are you to judge my standing? What do you contribute to this pack besides this constant, unnecessary drama? She stands tall, her gaze flashing with a sharp, calculating edge. I am respected by the pack, Kennedy. She knows my reputation is currently under fire, and she's using it as a weapon. Respected by the pack, perhaps, I counter, but you don't speak for the alpha. Enough, Cade interjects. Sylvia, go home. Now. I'm not finished, she insists, taking a step toward me. The air between us bristles. My protective instincts surge to the surface, and in a blur of motion, the shift begins. My inner wolf is done with the disrespect. I charge, determined to move the intruder off my land, and Sylvia shifts to meet me. We are a heartbeat away from colliding when Cade leaps between us with startling speed. He doesn't need to shift. His raw alpha strength is enough to shove Sylvia back and firmly, but carefully, pin me to the grass to prevent the fight. "Steady, Kennedy," he commands, his voice echoing with authority. My wolf bristles under his weight, sensing his dominance. Sylvia whimpers from the edge of the yard, watching us with wide eyes. My growls slowly simmer down into frustrated huffs as I stop resisting. I shift back into my human form, and Cade immediately pulls his shirt off, sliding it over my head to shield me from the cold and Sylvia's prying eyes. "This is getting out of hand," Cade says, his hand steady on my arm as Sylvia turns and storms off into the trees. I'm considering a transfer for her. Her presence is becoming a liability. "Don't," I scowl. "The damage is done. If you send her away now, it will only look like I'm being favored. The rumors will just find a new fire to fuel." "Kennedy, I don't lead based on rumors," he says, lifting my chin so I have to meet his gaze. "I want you by my side because you belong there. My word is final. They will respect you because I say so." His certainty is flattering, even if I feel like a walking disaster. I retreat inside, needing the solitude of a shower to wash away the morning stress. The next morning, the clinic is quiet. Many of my patients have transferred out, leaving me with a light schedule and a heavy heart. I watch the pack house on my way in. They are preparing for the flower festival, and the atmosphere is festive, a sharp contrast to my own mood. As soon as I walk through the doors, Chandler throws an arm over my shoulder. "Kennedy, you really are in the thick of it, aren't you?" "Tell me about it," I sigh, dropping my bag. "Lower your voice," she hisses, though she's grinning. "But seriously, I have news. Sylvia is playing the martyr. This morning in the dining room, she gave a speech about forgiving you. She actually asked people to show you Gracelyn instead of gossiping." I rub my forehead, feeling a headache coming on. "She's testing my patience, Chandler. She's painting herself as the saint and me as the villain." "She's clever," Chandler adds. "You can't lash out now or you'll just prove her point." "So, what am I supposed to do?" I groan. "Doctor, there's a knock at my door." One of the technicians sticks her head in. "Alpha Blackwell is here to see you." Chandler raises an eyebrow, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Wow. First Cade, now his brother? You've certainly become the most popular person in the territory, Kennedy." Chapter 19. Kennedy. I'm baffled. Why is Cade's brother here, and why does he look like a man standing on the edge of a precipice? "I'm going to show myself out," Chandler mutters, pausing for a split second to catch a glimpse of Alpha Blackwell before she vanishes. He walks in, looking strikingly different from Cade. His beard is grown out, his eyes are shadowed, and he carries an air of restless energy. "I don't have much time," he grumbles, his voice like gravel. I stand up immediately. I don't want to remain seated and appear meek in the face of his overwhelming physical presence. "Alpha Blackwell, how can I help you?" "Cade cares for you," he declares without preamble, just like he did for the one before. My heart skips. The one before? The girl he was going to choose a decade ago, before she betrayed his trust. Cade has moved on, but I still remember. "Don't be like her, doctor. Take care of him." I'm stunned. Why is he handing me the responsibility of his brother's happiness? Before I can ask, he looks over his shoulder. I'm out of time. He vanishes as swiftly as he arrived. Minutes later, patrolmen are at the clinic, nervous and seeking answers. They know Cade will be furious about the breach of his territory. I assure them I'll deliver the news myself, needing to see Cade's reaction firsthand. I rush to Cade's home, knocking on the dark wood of his door. When there's no answer, I walk around to the side of the house. I find our powerful Alpha in the living room, but he isn't looking over maps or signing decrees. He's sweeping. He has headphones on, his movements rhythmic and focused. Even in a simple t-shirt, the power in his shoulders is evident with every motion of the broom. It's a strangely domestic sight for a man of his stature. I wave my arms like a madwoman until he finally notices me. He sets his headphones aside and opens the door. Finally, I huff. "It took you forever to notice me." I noticed right away, actually, he counters with a smirk. I just wanted to see if your cardio had improved since the last time we were together. I feel the heat rise to my face. Keep talking like that, and I'll find a use for that broom you won't like. What are you doing? Don't you have staff for this? I need to burn off energy, Kennedy. Exercise isn't enough anymore. He runs a hand through his hair, his gaze intensifying. Unless you're here to help me find a better distraction? I roll my eyes, but the magnetic pull toward him is stronger than ever. Can I come in? Of course. Do you want a key? I squint at him. Your sarcasm is unnecessary, Cade. I'm not being sarcastic, he says, his voice dropping to a serious note. He sits on the couch, the weight of his responsibilities visible in the set of his shoulders. There's too much going on: Milt, Sylvia, the festival, the medical staff issues. It's a lot. I feel a pang of guilt for adding to his burden. Cade, it's about your brother. He came to see me. He tenses instantly. The calm he was trying to maintain vanishes, replaced by a raw, alpha intensity. What did he want? He asks, stepping into my space with startling speed. Nothing, I say, pressing my hands against his chest to ground him. He just told me to be good to you. He seemed worried. Cade trembles with a quiet, suppressed emotion. I find myself resting my hands on his shoulders gently, a silent plea for him to stay in the present with me. He searches my eyes, his breathing heavy, before he abruptly pulls me into a seat beside him, anchoring himself to me as if I'm the only thing keeping him grounded. Calm down, I whisper, resting a hand on the back of his neck. He's gone. Cade doesn't take well to being managed, but he responds to the closeness. He reaches for a connection that isn't about power or packs. When he kisses me, it's deep and insistent, a desperate reaching for something real amidst the chaos of his life. I don't pull back. I melt into the moment, my fingers tangling in his hair. The last time I was here, I was trying to hide. This time, I have every intention of staying right where I am. Chapter 20. Kennedy. It's not like Cade would let me go anyway. He anchors me against him, his presence so overwhelming that my insecurities about the pack and my half-hearted decisions to leave seem to evaporate. In the quiet of his home, the air is thick with a fierce, magnetic intensity that scatters my thoughts. We move together with a desperate reaching for something real, a connection that goes far beyond professional boundaries or private arrangements. Every touch feels like a claim, a silent promise that neither of us is ready to vocalize. The windows, I whisper, breathless as the world outside feels too close. Cade, the windows. His response is to carry me into the kitchen, the nearest room where the curtains are already drawn against the twilight. He sets me on the wooden dining table, the solid surface a grounding contrast to the whirlwind of emotion between us. I see the wildness in his amber eyes as he looks at me, a heat that makes my breath hitch. When he pulls his shirt off, revealing the strength I've come to know so well, I feel both overwhelmed and perfectly placed. His hands are steady and intentional as he draws me closer, his focus entirely on the rhythm of the moment. The kitchen is filled with the scent of cedar and rain, and the silence is punctuated only by the sound of our shared breathing. There is an urgency in his movements, yet a strange patience that is entirely distracting. As the tension reaches its peak, I find myself holding on to him as if he's the only thing keeping me from drifting away. When the moment finally breaks, leaving us both exhausted, I lie back on the table and stare at the ceiling. I feel a strange mix of fulfillment and a sudden, sharp pang of uncertainty. Is this it? We share this peak and then return to our separate, guarded worlds? But Cade surprises me. He doesn't pull away. Instead, he attends to me with a gentleness that feels more intimate than anything that came before. He sweeps me into his arms and carries me upstairs to his room, laying me on the large bed and tucking the covers around me. He follows, pulling me against his chest until my heart finally finds its steady rhythm again. I fall into a deep sleep, and when I wake, the morning light begins to filter into the room. I'm still tucked against Cade, my head resting on his chest. Welcome back, he says quietly, his voice a low rumble beneath my ear. I murmur a response, my mind drifting back to the chaos of the day before, Blackwell's visit and the revelation of Cade's past. What happened between you and your brother? I ask softly, my hand brushing his chest. He pauses, the tension returning to his shoulders. It's a long story, Kennedy. Don't worry about it. He shifts the subject quickly, his tone becoming serious. The flower festival is approaching. Will you be there? I stiffen. The flower festival is sacred, a celebration of the pack's women. My mother will be there, he adds. She doesn't visit often, but she's coming to honor a young woman of the pack. She's planning to choose Sylvia. My hand stills. The guest of honor is traditionally recognized as a symbolic leader for the year, and every woman in the pack is expected to show her respect to ensure prosperity. If I attend, I'll have to publicly honor Sylvia in front of everyone. I can give you an assignment outside the territory, Cade offers, sensing my conflict. I can send you away for a few days so you won't have to face the spectacle. He's offering me a way to hide. Again. No, I say, my voice firm as I sit up to look at him. I will be there. Kennedy, the pack will be watching. My mother likely assumes Sylvia is the natural choice for a partner, and she's showing her support. You shouldn't have to bow to anyone. I won't be run out of my own home by rumors or festivals, I tell him, my hand tightening on his. I will be there, Cade. And I will. If I'm going to stand by his side, I have to be ready to face the thorns as well as the flowers. Chapter 21. Kennedy. I remain in Cade's arms for hours. I try to tell myself I'm just conducting a long-term medical observation of his heart rate, but the truth is simpler. I'm too comfortable to move. Every time I think about the real world outside this bedroom, I find another reason to stay anchored right here. I should go, I say, though it sounds more like a question than a decision. His arm only tightens around my waist, showing zero interest in letting me move. You're not going anywhere, Kennedy. You're exactly where you belong. I huff, trying to find my usual prickly exterior. What am I, your captive audience? If it keeps that mouth of yours from arguing with me for 5 minutes, then yes, he chuckles, his chest rumbling against my back. I turn in his arms, and the sincerity in his hooded eyes makes my breath hitch. You're so beautiful, he whispers. I immediately spin back around, facing away from him. I can handle the bickering and the alpha posturing, but the second he starts being genuinely soft, my defenses go into overdrive. Stay, he says softly. Just stay with me. It feels like he's asking for something much more permanent than just one night. My resolve weakens, especially when my stomach lets out a traitorous grumble. I've clearly worn you out, he laughs, the sound rich and warm. Let me find you some food before you decide I'm an inconsiderate host. We head to the kitchen, and I take a moment to really look at his home. It's filled with heavy, vintage pieces, the kind of furniture that carries the weight of generations. It's a masculine space, dark and grand, but there are hints of a softer past in the family portraits on the walls. I throw together some sandwiches, but when Cade gestures toward the dining table, I freeze, a flush creeping up my neck as I remember our recent lack of professional distance. Not the table. Let's just sit on the couch. Whatever the doctor orders, he smirks, clearly enjoying my sudden bashfulness. We eat in a rare, comfortable silence. I feel like a secret sitting here in his oversized shirt, drenched in his scent, while the rest of the pack and the fallout of the rumors is locked outside. I have a surprise for you, Cade says, breaking the quiet. I've managed to hire 3 new doctors for the clinic. You have the next week off, Kennedy. I'm genuinely touched. Allocating specialized medical staff to a pack is a massive, expensive undertaking. He's seen my stress, and he's actually done something to fix the root of it. Thank you, Cade. That means a lot. He pulls me into his side, kissing the top of my head. I'm here to make sure you're taken care of. I don't reply, not wanting to ruin the moment. I lean into him, and for the first time in months, the weight on my shoulders feels manageable. I end up staying. Not just that night, but for the next 4 days. We spend the time in a bubble of domesticity, teasing, laughing, and even doing mundane things like organizing the house. The tension is still there, humming beneath every look and touch, but it's balanced by a new kind of friendship. I sleep in his arms every night, the world outside feeling further and further away. But the calendar doesn't stop. The flower festival is approaching like a looming storm. Every time Cade tries to bring it up, I shut him down. I know he wants to protect me, to send me away so I don't have to face Sylvia and his mother's public endorsement of her. He wants me to hide, but I've spent enough time retreating. If I'm going to have a place in this pack, and a place beside him, I have to be able to stand on my own 2 feet. I will be at that festival, and I will face whatever comes with my head held high. Chapter 22. Kennedy's POV. Returning to my cabin after those days with Cade feels like stepping into a different timeline. The silence of my home is a cold contrast to the warmth of his presence. I spend the evening submerged in a bath, trying to prepare for the day of the flower, a spectacle of theatrical proportions involving my mother, Cade's mother, and the inevitable fallout with Sylvia. The festival grounds are a sea of torches and floral arrangements. I chose a simple, white A-line dress. Modest and understated. Beside me, my mother beams at the attention we're drawing, though I know the pack's stares aren't about my fashion choices. The gossip has reached a fever pitch. I spot Sylvia in front of the pack house, and the breath leaves my lungs. She is a vision in a magnificent gown adorned with pearls, looking every bit the future leader the pack expects her to be. Standing beside her is the former Luna, Cade's mother, a woman of chilling poise and elegance. Everyone. Cade's mother addresses the crowd. My son is delayed at the border, but we shall begin. Today, I pass the symbolic rose to Sylvia, who has remained a pillar of dignity despite the stresses she has endured lately. She looks directly at me as she hands the rose to a radiant Sylvia. The hostility from the crowd is a silent, heavy weight. Sylvia takes her seat on the floral throne, her confidence visibly expanding with every second. The women of the pack form a line to show their respect. I stand at the very end with Chandler, my heart hammering against my ribs. One by one, the women offer a gesture of tradition. Finally, it's my turn. The pack holds its breath. Sylvia leans forward, a smirk playing on her lips as she waits for me to lower my head. Just as I reach the front, a large, warm hand presses against my back. Don't even think about it. Cade's voice is a low, protective growl meant only for me. If you bow to her, I will intervene. He steps forward to greet his mother, leaving the space between Sylvia and me charged with electricity. Cade's mother clears her throat, her eyes narrowing in expectation. It's time. I slowly lower myself until my knees hit the grass, but I keep my spine straight. I reach out, plucking a tiny, wild daisy from the earth, and stand back up. I never bowed my head. What is the meaning of this? Cade's mother demands, her voice cutting through the silence. Great Luna, I say, my voice remarkably steady. I thank you for the tradition, but it would be inappropriate for me to show that level of submission to a woman of lower status. The hierarchy must be respected. Cade moves to my side instantly, taking my hand in a firm, public grip. Sylvia stands from her throne, her eyes filling with shock. Doctor, the former Luna booms. You are not above her. There seems to be a misunderstanding, I reply, meeting her gaze with all the clinical detachment I can muster. I have accepted Cade's proposal. I am his chosen. Cade's hand tightens around mine. He didn't expect me to announce it here, and, honestly, neither did I. But the move is made. No, Sylvia cries out, the mask of dignity slipping. Settle down, Cade's mother tells her firmly, her eyes shifting to me with a new, calculating respect. She knows a power play when she sees one. Now that you have clarified your status, Dr. Kennedy, you are not required to bow. You may go. She takes the loss with the graceland of a true leader. Sylvia, however, is far from composed. As she begins to move toward me, Chandler accidentally steps on the long, trailing hem of Sylvia's dress. With a sharp gasp, Sylvia topples backwards into the floral arrangements. Oh no! Chandler cries, though her eyes are dancing. I am so sorry. The dress is just so long. Cade's mother sighs, signaling the end of the tension. Let the celebration continue. Enjoy the night. She retreats inside, leaving Sylvia to deal with her muddied silks and a ruined moment. I don't dare look at Cade yet. I can feel the heat of his gaze and the sheer weight of the word chosen hanging in the air between us. I've just changed my life forever in front of the entire pack, and there is no going back now. Chapter 23. Kennedy's POV. My mother's face is a twitching map of confusion. She looks like she's caught between a lecture and a celebration, her social instincts warring with her maternal ones. Mother, I say, trying to ground her before she starts a scene. You failed to mention your official standing with the Alpha, she grits, though she quickly plasters on a polite, mother of the future Luna, smile for Cade. Excuse us, Cade interjects, his voice leaving no room for negotiation. I need some private time with my soon-to-be Luna. Oh, but my mother is clearly desperate for the details, but one look from Cade, an eyebrow raised in silent challenge, is enough to make her retreat. She wouldn't dream of scaring off the man who just elevated her daughter's status to the highest in the territory. All right, I'll see you at home, sweetheart, she says, her voice dripping with sudden, artificial sweetness. Cade takes my hand and directs me away from the lingering crowd. I feel the weight of 1,000 stares, some curious, some envious, but most simply wary. Cade is used to this level of intimidation, but for me, the transition from pariah doctor to future leader is jarring. When we step inside his home, I notice it immediately. He added curtains to the living room, heavy, dark navy blue fabric that shuts out the prying eyes of the pack. My chest warms. He did this for my comfort, to give me a sanctuary within these walls. Nice curtains, I say, clearing my throat to break the sudden tension. Thank you, mate. He wraps an arm around my waist, pulling me into his side as we reach the couch. Now, tell me why you decided to blindside me in front of the entire pack. I have an explanation. I protest, though my mind is racing. I saw the wild daisy at my feet. It felt like an epiphany. I just did what felt right in the moment. Aren't you happy? He dips his head, his gaze softening. I'm over the moon. But I don't like surprises, Kennedy. Especially when they involve my heart. He touches my chin, tipping my head back. I'm going to give you a few minutes to prepare yourself, because I intend to show you exactly how much your news moved me. Minutes later, Cade beckons me toward the back door. The evening air is cool, the festival torches still flickering in the distance. Cade? The bedroom is upstairs, I whisper. There's no nature in my bedroom, he replies, his voice a low, melodic rumble. He leads me to an abandoned garden at the edge of his property, enclosed by a high white fence. It's overgrown and silent, a hidden world within the territory. The moment the gate clicks shut, he reaches for me, his mouth sealing against mine with a frantic, possessive hunger. This isn't a kiss between partners anymore, it's a claim between an alpha and his Luna. I find myself grounded by his intensity, my hands clinging to his shoulders as the world outside the fence disappears. We move together in the fading light, the warmth of the earth beneath us and the scent of crushed herbs filling the air. There is a thrilling danger to being so close to the pack, hidden only by a few slats of wood, but it only heightens the electricity between us. Cade is entirely focused, his movements a powerful, rhythmic language of devotion. I find myself lost in the sensation, my breathing hitching as the tension of the last few weeks finally breaks. We hear distant chatter as a group walks by the perimeter, and for a heartbeat, I freeze. But Cade doesn't care. He continues with a quiet fervor, his presence a shield against the rest of the world. As the moon rises higher, we collapse together in the soft grass of the garden, finally one. The chosen title was spoken in public, but here, in the quiet of the wild, is where the bond truly takes root. Chapter 24. Kennedy's POV. I scramble back, the reality of what just happened hitting me like a physical blow. In the quiet of the abandoned garden, the weight of Cade's assumptions hangs heavy in the air. We are in a world where the stakes of an alpha's lineage are incredibly high, and yet no one asked me what I wanted. Cade senses the immediate shift in my energy. Kennedy, I am volcanic. Crossing Sylvia at the festival was a social victory, but this feels like a breach of the partnership he just offered. Are you out of your mind? I whisper, my voice trembling with a heat that isn't passion. What were you thinking? He raises an eyebrow, his expression frustratingly calm. I was thinking about our future, he replies. Our future. I let out a sharp, hollow laugh. Cade, you know the biological stakes for us. I'm a doctor, I know exactly what this implies. You can't just make a life-altering decision like that without a single word to me. He crosses his arms, the alpha posture returning. You announce to the entire pack that you are my chosen mate, Kennedy. One of the responsibilities of a Luna is to carry the alpha's line. Did you think I wanted my heritage to end with me? I am more than a heritage, Cade. I'm not ready for that. I can barely navigate my own reputation in this pack, let alone a child. If I became pregnant now, everyone would assume I used it to trap you. This is something people talk about. The moment that was supposed to be a sacred bonding has turned into a nightmare of miscommunication. Cade looks genuinely perplexed. With his resources and confidence, he sees a family as a natural next step. But he isn't the one whose career and identity are currently under fire. He sighs, his expression softening as he sees the tears I'm fighting back. He reaches out, helping me straighten my clothes with a gentleness that feels like an apology. He isn't ready to speak. He carries me back to his home in silence and sets me down in the bedroom. When I eventually step out of the bathroom, I find a glass of water and a small blue tablet on the nightstand, a clinical precaution. Cade got it for me. I appreciate the gesture of respect for my wishes, even if the silence between us is now a mile wide. I take the tablet and slip under the covers, hugging myself tight until sleep finally claims me. The next morning, the air in the kitchen is thick enough to choke on. Cade has prepared breakfast, but when he wraps his arms around me from behind, my heart throbs with a mix of affection and lingering resentment. Why are you eating so fast? He asks as we sit at the table. I'm late for work, I reply shortly. Kennedy, I'm not having you work today after yesterday's shock, he says, his tone shifting into that cold, authoritative alpha command. I set my fork down, meeting his gaze. Don't talk to me like that. I realize you're the alpha, but if this partnership is going to work, you need to see me as an equal. Not a subordinate you can bench whenever you feel like it. His jaw sets. Why is it so hard for you to let me take care of you? You're always blocking me out. Because you have a funny way of taking care of things. I snap, the emotions of the last 24 hours surging over. Between letting the pack drag my name through the mud and making decisions about my body without my consent, I'm starting to think we're just toxic. I stand up and bolt for the front door, needing air. As I swing it open, I collide with a delivery man holding groceries. I go down hard, but a hand catches my elbow. Before I can even apologize, Cade reacts with a flash of protective aggression, his instincts haywire. He shoves the man back toward the steps, his wolf close to the surface. Stop it! I yell, stepping between Cade and the bewildered delivery man. Go! Just go! The man scrambles away, and I turn to Cade, pushing my hands against his chest to keep him inside the house. He's breathing hard, trying to be gentle with me, but clearly looking for a fight. This is exactly what I'm talking about, I whisper, my voice breaking. Communication is impossible with you. 1 minute it's breakfast, and the next it's a storm. I think I made a mistake, Cade. I think I chose the wrong side of the fence. Chapter 25. Kennedy's POV. I set my forehead against the closed door and exhale a breath I didn't know I was holding. What is wrong with us, Cade? I feel his presence behind me, his hand hovering near my arm before he senses my tension and steps back. It was instinct, Kennedy, he says, his voice low and rough. When you ran into that man, my wolf saw a threat. I'm wired to protect you. I turn to face him, seeing the tumultuous energy still rolling off him. He is an alpha, born and bred for defense, but we have to find a middle ground. We can't keep reacting like this, I say softly. I appreciate the protection, but I need us to find a rhythm that doesn't involve a storm every time someone walks by. Cade's expression softens, the aggression fading into something more vulnerable. I know, he admits, reaching out to pull me into a grounding embrace. I'm deeply invested in you, Kennedy. I knew you wanted to handle the pack rumors your own way, so I stepped back. But now that we've made this official, I'm not letting anyone disrespect you. Let's just take it one day at a time, I murmur against his chest. The next few hours are a blur of domesticity. Kate heads to work, and I spend the morning restocking the house. When I return to my own cabin to pack a few essentials, I find my mother waiting for me. Her reaction is exactly what I feared. A predatory glee that has nothing to do with my happiness and everything to do with the status she hopes to gain. My daughter, the Luna, she beams, already planning her move into the pack house. I realize then that I can't stay there. I grab a bag of clothes and head back to Kate's, needing the sanctuary of a space more than ever. By evening, I'm restless. A planned drink with Chandler falls through due to a clinic emergency, leaving me alone in Kate's bedroom. I decided to change into a simple Blackwell dress I'd packed, a rare departure from my usual scrubs. I'm adjusting the straps, my back to the door, when I hear it open. Cade stands in the doorway, his gaze locking onto me with an intensity that makes the air in the room feel thin. "You look stunning," he says, his voice dropping to that dangerous, melodic frequency. He doesn't close the door. He just walks toward me, his focus entirely on the silhouette I cut against the evening light. We stand toe-to-toe, our foreheads pressing together in a silent challenge for dominance. In a move that feels less like surrender and more like a choice, I find myself narrowing the space between us. There is a wordless, powerful connection in the way we track each other's movements, a dance of status and desire that belongs only to an alpha and his chosen mate. I lean in, sampled by the heat of his skin, watching as the composed leader of the pack begins to crumble under the simple weight of my attention. I smile, a flicker of amusement crossing my mind at the realization that I am the only one who can unbalance him like this. But just as the tension reaches a breaking point, a cold shiver runs down my spine. I glance toward the window, the moonlight catching a movement in the shadows of the second-story balcony across the way. My heart stops. Sylvia is there. She is standing in the dark, her eyes fixed on us, a silent witness to our most private moment. The sanctuary I thought I found has been breached, and the look on her face tells me that the peace I've been fighting for is still a long way off. Chapter 26. Kennedy's POV. The silence following Sylvia's gasp is deafening. I scramble to my feet, mortified, my heart hammering against my ribs. Sylvia just witnessed a moment that was meant to be ours alone, a sacred, private connection between an alpha and his mate. Cade's expression is stony, Caden's expression is stony, his eyes flashing with a ruthless intensity I've come to recognize. A low vibration of fury as he fixes his clothes and heads for the door. I rush to the window, watching as Sylvia tries to limp away from the house. She's far too slow. Cade catches up to her effortlessly, cutting off her path without even needing to touch her. "You were spying," he accuses, his presence looming over her like a shadow. "Cade, my ankle," she whines, her voice thin and desperate. "You invaded the privacy of your alpha and his chosen," Cade's voice carries across the yard, cold and unyielding. "That is a grave breach of pack conduct, Sylvia. Pack your things. You are being transferred out of this territory immediately." The sure finally shattering, but Cade is finished. He calls over a patrolman to escort her for medical attention before seeing her to the perimeter. When he returns to the house, the slam of the front door echoes through the halls. He paces our bedroom, his energy still humming with a dangerous edge. "That woman." "I know," I say, stepping toward him to offer a grounding presence. "But it's over now. She's gone." "She's done," Cade agrees, yanking the curtains shut with a final, decisive snap. "I won't have anyone disrespecting the privacy of this home, or you." We spend the rest of the day in the sanctuary of the living room. Cade grumbles about the overly sentimental movie I've chosen, but he doesn't move, his arm anchored firmly around my shoulders. It's a different kind of intimacy, the quiet, domestic kind that feels like we're building a foundation of real trust. "Why can't you be romantic like the guys in these movies?" I tease, leaning into his side. "Write me a long, poetic letter to sweep me off my feet." He chuckles, kissing my temple. "Babe, I think I've done enough sweeping for 1 week. Besides, I prefer showing you how I feel in person." I sag against him, the weight of the last few days finally beginning to lift. For the first time, it feels like we aren't just a physical match, we're becoming a team. The next day at the clinic, the next day at the clinic, the atmosphere had shifted entirely. The look of pure vindication. Aligned to the hero overnight, she says, plopping into a chair. The word is out about Sylvia's peeping Tom act. The pack is horrified. The gossip has officially turned in. Why the gossip has officially turned in your favor, Kennedy, ugging at my lips. The trash took itself out? Precisely, Chandler winks. You're all clear to be our Luna now. But as I walk home later that evening, Blackwell's words echo in my mind. The one before. The woman Cade loved first. I don't want to be a replacement, and I certainly don't want to be a rebound for a decade-old heartbreak. When I enter the house, Cade is in tea. When I enter the house, Cade is in the living room, focused on packing paperwork. The moment I sit beside him. I missed you, he murmurs against my hair. Cade, I say, my voice serious. There's something on my mind. It's about what Blackwell said. He tenses slightly, his grip on my waist becoming a fraction tighter. What about him? He mentioned another woman. Someone you were with a long time ago. Cade, did you love her? The silence stretches for a long minute. Cade stares ahead, his expression uncaden stares ahead, his expression unreadable, before he finally speaks. But layered with history. She was my first love. I will never forget her. Chapter 27. Kennedy's POV. My body tenses, every instinct screaming at me to protect my heart. I've spent years being independent. I don't want to be second to a ghost. If that woman is no longer in his life, why does she still hold a place in his memory? I inhale deeply, fighting the urge to walk away. I'll give you a minute to clarify that, Cade, before I decide this was all a mistake. Cade lets out a soft, knowing chuckle. He's walking on thin ice, and he knows it. That woman was a catalyst, Kennedy, he explains, his voice dropping to a serious, grounded tone. I stopped being a boy and became the man I am today because she and my brother betrayed me. I won't forget the lessons that betrayal taught me about loyalty and leadership. The tension in my shoulders finally breaks. It isn't lingering affection, it's a scar. I'm sorry, Cade. I had no idea you went through that with your own family. It's in the past, he replies, reaching out to pull me into his side. When I'm with you, those old sorrows don't even have the space to breathe. He pulls me into an embrace that feels more like a sanctuary than a claim. The air between us shifts, the heavy conversation giving way to a magnetic, wordless pull. He leans back, guiding me with him until we're resting together on the couch, the world outside our navy blue curtains completely forgotten. Cade is incredibly attentive, his touch deliberate and grounding. There's a hunger in the way we connect now, one built on the honesty we just shared. I find myself lost in the heat of the moment, the electricity between us far more potent than any rumor or past heartache. He whispers against my skin, his breath ragged as he focuses entirely on me. In this space, there is no alpha or doctor, just two people finding a rhythm that belongs only to them. When the tension finally reaches its peak and breaks, leaving me breathless and fulfilled, I sag against him, finally at peace. Good girl, Cade whispers, his hand stroking my back as my pulse slowly returns to normal. Looks like you can listen to me after all. Only when it's mutually beneficial, I pant, making him laugh. We stay tangled together for a long time, the silence comfortable. Thank you for telling me about her, I say softly. And about Blackwell. He kisses the top of my head. She's the past. You're the future. Don't worry about my brother. He knows the cost of crossing me now. My mother is a strong Luna. She understood that loyalty to the pack comes before even blood. She let him go for the good of us all. She's a hard act to follow, I admit. I don't know if I'll ever fill those shoes. Cade snorts playfully. You don't wear shoes, Kennedy. You wear flip-flops, and you fill those perfectly. You'll serve this pack in your own way. Even if it's a bit quirky. I roll my eyes and head upstairs to freshen up, returning a few minutes later in one of his oversized t-shirts. Nice dress, Cade teases from the couch. Thanks. It's my favorite ex-boyfriend's, I deadpan. He smirks, knowing he's the only one on my mind. That reminds me, you'll need an actual dress 2 weeks from today. There's a gathering of the alphas and Lunas. I frown. More alphas? In one place. Yes, it's a formal summit. Take my card and get something that makes you feel like the queen you're becoming. I put my hands on my hips. Cade, I'm a doctor. I have my own savings. And your partner is a man who wants to take care of you, he counters, his eyes dancing with mischief. Will you come with me? If the spotlight is too much, I can ask my mother to go instead. This is the moment. The step from a private arrangement to a global introduction as Cade's mate. It's a declaration to the entire supernatural world. I look at him, seeing the man who added curtains for my privacy and hired doctors for my sanity. I'll go with you. Chapter 28. Kennedy's POV. Chandler is in her absolute element. She treats our dress shopping trip like a sacred mission, thanking the moon goddess that she finally gets to retire my washed-out jeans and flip-flops aesthetic for a night. When the boutique assistant asks for my budget, I simply hold up Cade's Blackwell card. He'd insisted I take it with that overwhelming, effortless charm that makes it impossible to say no. No budget. Chandler's eyes go wide. In that case, I'm finding a few things for myself, too. I laugh and shoot Cade a quick text. He replies almost instantly, don't care. Get whatever makes you feel like the queen you are. Must be nice being filthy rich, I tease back. I'm far more interesting than my bank account, he sends, and I can practically hear the smirk in his voice. Want me to prove it tonight? I huff, rolling my eyes at my phone. If he were here, he'd definitely be the one calling me childish. After 11 dresses and a guilt trip about all the pack gossip she's cleared for me, Chandler convinces me to buy 8 outfits, and a few for her, of course. The transition into Cade's home happens slowly, then all at once. Every day after work, I move a few more things from my cabin to his house. I'm starting to realize that moving in isn't about losing my independence. It's about my safe haven taking a new, warmer form in his arms. Even the patients at the clinic are coming around. The same women who whispered a few weeks ago are now stopping by to apologize, citing Sylvia's peeping Tom scandal as the way-up call they needed. Things are finally settling into a new kind of normal. Until Saturday morning. Kennedy. A gentle shake wakes me. Get ready, babe. We're late. Late for what? I yawn, squinting at the sunlight. We have a flight to catch, Cade says, looking devastatingly handsome in a tailored suit. Within the hour, we're leaving the territory for neutral ground, land owned by No Alpha, reserved for the highest summit of leaders. The flight is a blur, and by the time we reach our destination, I realize my first major Luna mistake. In my rush, I forgot to pack my heels. I look at my long, elegant gown and then at my Blackwell sneakers. The dress is long enough to hide them, but only if I stay perfectly still. Ready? Cade asks, scanning me with an intensity that makes my heart skip. You look incredible, he murmurs, tugging at his tie as if it's suddenly too tight. It'll be a miracle if we actually make it to the gala. On the drive to the summit, the limo lets out a sudden hiss of steam. We pull over on a deserted stretch of wilderness road. While Cade and the driver investigate the engine, I step out to catch my breath, wandering toward a nearby field of wild daisies. I pull out my phone to snap a few photos of the scenery, but my blood runs cold when I see a shape in the corner of my screen. A wolf, massive, silver-furred, and predatory, is watching me from the tree line. My heart hammers. This isn't a regular wolf. The sheer size and aura tell me he's an alpha. I go to yell for Cade, but the car alarm blares, drowning out my voice. The wolf takes a slow, calculated step toward me, a low growl vibrating in the air. Hey, big guy, I whisper, my hands trembling as I slowly back away. Let's just stay calm. I look over my shoulder, desperate for Cade to appear, but the road is obscured by the tall grass. My head snaps back when I hear the sickening, rhythmic pop of bones shifting. The silver wolf blurs, the fur receding and the frame lengthening. In a swirl of shadow and moonlight, a tall, imposing stranger stands where the predator had been just a second before, pulling a dark coat over his shoulders with a cold, regal confidence. He stands with his eyes locked on mine, a gaze that feels like a physical weight. I'm stranded in the middle of nowhere with a powerful alpha I've never met, and for the first time, I realize just how dangerous the world outside Cade's borders can be. Chapter 29. Kennedy's POV. I keep my eyes fixed firmly on the tree line, having no interest in disrespecting Cade or the stranger standing before us. The alpha, however, doesn't have the same reservations. He scans me from head to toe, his eyes lingering on the ridiculous sneakers peeking out from under my formal gown. Who are you? His thick, rumbly voice asks, the predatory edge in his eyes replaced by a flicker of curiosity. I open my mouth to respond, but a deeper, more familiar rumble cuts through the air. What, the center of my world, are you doing near her? I turn to find Cade as he snatches me by the waist, spinning me behind the safety of his shadow. Cade, the stranger says, his voice smoothing out. I asked you a question, Sillin, Cade scowls, his fingers digging into my hips with a possessiveness that radiates off him in waves. I'm investigating my borders, Sillin counters, standing taller. I'm not too keen on having strangers wandering onto my territory. This is free, unmarked land, Cade claims, his voice dropping an octave. So save your posturing. I won't forget the lack of respect shown to my mate. I'm in the process of acquiring this land, Sillin says, his brow darkening. The air between them is thick with alpha hostility, a silent battle for dominance that I know neither will win easily. In the process, Cade repeats mockingly, "Meaning it's not yours yet." "Are we done?" "Yes," I interject, stepping forward to bridge the gap before they tear each other apart. "We're done. Alpha Sillin, please excuse the misunderstanding. We were simply passing through." I tug at Cade's arm, but he's an immovable wall of pride. He won't move until Sillin yields, and Sillin looks just as stubborn. "Alpha," our driver calls out from a distance, his voice frantic. He's running toward us, phone in hand, when the sharp, mechanical crack of a gunshot echoes through the woods. Instinct takes over. Cade shifts in a blur of motion, and I follow, our paws hitting the earth as we tear into the dense wilderness for cover. I lose sight of Sillin and the driver as we dive into the brush. Humans. In our world, they are the only ones who rely on tools of metal and lead. Their attacks are rare but chillingly organized. They must have tracked the gathering of alphas. Cade stays behind me, a massive shield of silver gray guarding my flank. We reach a clearing with a cluster of cabins, and I see another wolf, Sillin, streaking toward his own pack members. Cade beelines for the nearest cabin, bursting inside and slamming his back against the door as he shifts back to human form. "You," he glares at the trembling homeowner inside. "Give me your phone. Now." I peer out the window, watching for movement. How long have they been plotting this? Did they sabotage the car? "Kennedy, get away from the glass." "That's an order," Cade commands. I listen only because I know he's right. Cade punches in a number, his voice cold and efficient. "It's me. Send 2 extraction teams to Sillin coordinates. Lock down my territory. No one gets in or out. Humans attacked." Minutes later, Sillin voice calls from outside. Cade storms out to meet him. "Did you secure the perimeter?" Cade asks as if he's the one in charge. Sillin crosses his arms, several of his pack members flanking him. "I'll demand respect if you're going to be a guest on my land, Cade." "Sillin, thank you for the shelter," I say, stepping out wrapped in a thick wool blanket I found inside. My dress was a casualty of the shift. "Your attire is certainly memorable," Sillin notes, his eyes lingering. "If you keep looking at her, the humans will be the least of your concerns," Cade growls. "I didn't know you took a Luna," Sillin muses. "When did that happen?" "Recently. And she isn't for public viewing. The pettiness is exhausting. We'll be gone as soon as the backup arrives," I say firmly. "Won't we, Cade?" "Yes," Cade says, though his shoulders remain tense. Sillin eventually retreats to report the attack, leaving us in the cabin. The homeowner, seeing the situation, wisely accepts Cade's offer of compensation and heads to a neighbor's. Cade's phone buzzes. It's Chandler. She's on a medical chopper heading our way. "Stay safe, Chandler," I warn her before hanging up. I walk over to Cade. He's pacing the floor like a caged predator, his jaw set in a hard line. "Are you all right?" I ask, resting my hands on his shoulders. "I'm murderous," he admits with a dark laugh. "I hate sitting here while my borders are threatened. I know he wants to be out there hunting, but he won't leave my side." I reach for his belt, my gaze meeting his. "Why don't I help you find your focus?" I whisper. In the middle of the chaos, we find our own quiet center, a moment of grounding before the storm returns. Chapter 30. Kennedy's POV. Cade's hands come down on my wrists, his expression a mask of tactical focus. "This is not the time, Kennedy," he says softly, gently pulling my hands away. He turns back to the window, his mind already miles away on border security and defensive maneuvers. A strange, hollow feeling lodges in my throat. It's rare for Cade to decline a moment of closeness. Our mutual connection has always been the one stable foundation we could rely on during a storm. I clear my throat and take a seat, trying to brush off the rejection. There are more pressing matters than my bruised ego. An hour later, the rhythmic thrum of helicopter blades vibrates through the cabin floor. Our backup has arrived. "Ready?" Cade is at my side instantly, his hand finding mine. We sprint toward the aircraft. I spot Chandler by the open door, her medical kit ready, her face pale but determined. Cade hoists me into the cabin, but before he can follow, the sharp crack of gunfire erupts from the tree lean. He tackles me to the floor of the helicopter as it lurches upward, banking sharply to avoid the threat. I hear a cry and a sickening thud. Chandler. I watch in horror as Chandler, having lost her footing in the chaos, scrambles toward cover on the ground below. She isn't alone. Cylin is already there, shielding her as they dive for the brush. The second helicopter begins defensive maneuvers, and we are forced to climb higher, the door sliding shut on the sight of my best friend stranded in a flashpoint zone. We have to go back. I beg, but Cade holds me tight, his heart hammering against my back. Cylin has her, Kennedy. He'll keep her safe, he promises. 20 minutes later, the longest 20 minutes of my life, Cade finally gets through on the radio. He nods at me, a look of grim relief on his face. She's uninjured. I breathe a silent prayer to the moon goddess, though the thought of Chandler navigating an alpha like Cylin is a whole different kind of worry. By the time we land back on our own territory, the lockdown is in full effect. Cade checks me over for injuries with a frantic, uncharacteristic nervousness before diving straight into emergency coordination. I head to the bedroom, needing a moment to decompress. I reach Chandler via phone, and she sounds remarkably upbeat. Apparently, she's already finding Cylin intriguing, despite my warnings about alpha temperaments. As the sun sets, I sit on the edge of the bed, the adrenaline of the day finally fading into a dull ache of anxiety. I think back to my attempt to initiate closeness in the cabin and feel a wave of embarrassment. Needing a way to ground myself and find some sense of calm, I lean back against the pillows, closing my eyes and focusing on my own breathing, trying to find a quiet center in the middle of the storm. I'm startled when the door opens. Cade stands there, watching me with a weary but sharp gaze. Need some help with that? He asks, his voice carrying a hint of a protective edge. I quickly adjust the covers, the embarrassment returning. I didn't think you'd be back so soon. It's all right, he says, walking closer until he's standing over me. He reaches out, his hands resting on my shoulders to ground me. Let me take over, Kennedy. You've had a long day. It's fine, Cade, I say, offering a weak smile as I stand up. Maybe in a few days, when things have settled. He looks genuinely confused. Are you still thinking about earlier today? I didn't mean to shut you down, but the timing was dangerous. I know that. I'm not angry about the timing. Then communicate with me, he pushes, his alpha instincts sensing a shift he can't quite track. If you wanted a moment of peace, why push me away now? I feel cornered. This is different. Finding a moment of quiet for myself is a coping mechanism, not a slight against him. Nothing is wrong, Cade. This is getting out of hand. I don't want to argue. My voice rises, the stress of the day finally bubbling over. I don't want to argue either, but here we are. He says, his own frustration surfacing. I try to move around him, wanting nothing more than to just sleep. I'm going to bed. Maybe I should sleep on the couch so we both have some space. You aren't doing that, he says, his jaw setting as he blocks my path. That pushes my final button. And who are you to tell me where I sleep? We stand toe-to-toe, the air between us electric with the same stubborn pride that makes us such a formidable and volatile match. Neither of us is willing to back down, and in the silence of the room, the distance between us feels wider than ever. Chapter 31. Kennedy's POV. You're not going anywhere, he repeats, his voice leaving no room for debate. My hands fist at my sides as I glare at him. The urge to snap back is almost overwhelming, but his logic is sound. We were just attacked by an organized human cell. Staying together isn't about control, it's about survival. I'm not a complete idiot. Cade is the alpha, and in a state of high alert, his tactical instincts are rarely wrong. Still, the air between us is thick with the residue of our argument. I walk to the window, staring out at the dark tree line, searching for shadows just to avoid looking at the man who is both my sanctuary and my greatest headache. Cade ends the conversation by heading into the bathroom. I lie in bed and close my eyes, wishing for the kind of peace that seems to evade us every time we get close to it. The next morning, I wake up to an empty bed. I didn't even hear him come in last night. Downstairs, I find the kitchen cabinets open and an empty pill bottle on the counter. I check the label and frown. These are standard pain meds, but they aren't right for Cade's unique physiology. And Alpha's metabolic rate is much higher. He would need something far more potent to even register. Why would he even need them? His healing factor usually handles anything short of a catastrophic wound within hours. I toss the bottle, grab an apple, and head to the clinic. The pack feels hushed today, the streets empty as everyone stays indoors, waiting for the all-clear after the helicopter incident. Once at work, I begin organizing the emergency inventory. I can't get that empty bottle out of my head. With a sigh, I pack a bag with the correct dosage of alpha-grade medication. Since I have a full schedule, I can't leave, so I ask a technician to find Cade and deliver it. Wait, I call out as she turns to go. I rush to my desk and grab a handful of the sweets I keep for the children, stuffing them into the bag. And this, I add, grabbing the ham and cheese sandwich I'd packed for my own lunch. I watch her go, a knot of guilt tightening in my stomach. We shouldn't be fighting over trivial things when there's a threat at our borders. The pack needs its leaders focused, not petty. An hour later, a nurse rushes in. "Doctor, we have an urgent walk-in." I dash to the treatment area, expecting a wounded scout. Instead, I find Cade. He's leaning against a table, wearing a Blackwell t-shirt and a deep skull. "Cade," I breathe, my heart skipping. "Hi, mate." He looks remarkably calm for someone who was just part of a firefight. "Did you get the supplies I sent?" "Who are they for?" I ask. "Me," he grunts, reaching back to gingerly touch his shoulder. "The bullet is being stubborn. It won't let me think straight." "The what?" He frowns as if I'm overreacting. "The bullet. From the helicopter." I gape at him. The man is talking about a gunshot wound like it's a splinter. "How did I miss this yesterday? Why didn't you tell me?" "I never saw you bleed." "I clotted fast enough," he shrugs. "But it's deep. The blood loss is making me woozy. Can you just get it out?" I don't waste another second. I take his hand and lead him toward the operating room, my mind racing. I call for a nurse to prepare the local block, but Cade stops me. "No anesthesia," he says firmly. I don't like losing my senses when we're under threat. My hands are shaking as I pull on my gloves. "Cade, please. The pain will be agonizing. I can't focus if I know you're suffering. Let me do this. For me." He grunts, his gaze softening as he looks at my trembling hands. "Fine. For you." The procedure is tense. I work with clinical precision, though my heart is hammering against my ribs the entire time. I've operated on dozens of wolves, but seeing the damage a silver-tipped round can do to Cade's back makes my stomach turn. After I stitch him up, I stay by his side as the sedative wears off. I touch his face gently, relieved he's okay, but still in disbelief that he tried to patrol the house last night with a hole in his shoulder. "I hate feeling like a toddler," he groans as he stirs, his voice thick. "It'll wear off soon. Just stay still." "Who will protect you if they come back?" he mutters, his alpha instincts fighting the drugs. "I can handle myself, Cade. And right now, you need to be patient." He offers a lazy, lopsided grin. "You're right. I should worry about the other guy. If an alpha can barely hold his own against you, a human doesn't stand a chance." I smirk, and the lingering tension from our fight finally dissolves. "Does anything else hurt?" "No. I have work to do," he says, trying to sit up. "Cade, if you get off that bed, I'll be a bigger threat to your health than that bullet was." "Sit down." He groans but settles back. 1 hour. Then I'm up. Keep talking to me so I stay alert. "Why didn't you ask for help yesterday?" I ask softly. "Had things to do," he repeats stubbornly. "Like what?" "Seeing how long you could last." He laughs, though it turns into a wince. "A little lead won't kill me, Kennedy. You patrolled all night on a wound that wasn't healing because you wouldn't rest." "I'm sorry, Cade. I shouldn't have been so hostile last night while you were literally bleeding for the pack." "Come here." He tugs my hand until I'm leaning over him, resting my head against his uninjured shoulder. He kisses the top of my head, his breathing finally evening out. "It's all right, my Luna. We're all right." Chapter 32. Kennedy's POV. Great news, Cade says, practically bursting into my office with a renewed energy that tells me the weight has finally lifted from his shoulders. I look up from my charts with a mock-stern expression. Hey, mister, you can't just pop in here like you own the place. I have patience to see. I technically do own it, he counters, walking around my desk and resting his hands on my hips. And by extension, everything in here belongs to me too. I swat him teasingly with a medical folder. In your dreams, Alpha. Now, what's the news? They found the humans behind the perimeter breach, he says, his voice dropping to a more serious tone. They didn't make it far. Their plan was disorganized, mostly a desperate attempt to cause panic. They're in custody now, facing a full tribal trial. I let out a long, shaky breath and throw my arms around his neck. Thank the goddess. I'm just glad it's over without any more injuries. Me too, he murmurs, kissing the top of my head. I have to head back out to oversee the final security sweeps, but I'll be home later tonight. I expect to find you waiting for me. He gives me a playful wink and ducks out before I can catch him with another folder. With the threat neutralized, the atmosphere in the pack shifts overnight. As I leave the clinic, I'm stopped by an elderly woman named Esmeralda. She invites me to a knitting night at the pack house, and honestly, after the week I've had, a circle of wise, gossip-loving grandmothers sounds like exactly what the doctor ordered. The night is a revelation. I spend hours hollering with laughter as they tell stories about a younger, much less composed Cade. I even met a young girl interested in medicine and spent the evening giving her tips, watching her eyes light up with the same fire I had when I started. By the time I head home, the villain rumors feel like a lifetime ago. The pack hasn't just accepted me, they've welcomed me. You're doing well, Kennedy, a voice says from the shadows near the tree lean. I nearly jump out of my skin. Goddess. You scared me. I turn to find Cade's mother leaning against an oak tree, her posture as elegant as ever. My apologies, she says with a rare, genuine smile. I was just observing. The pack is taking to you beautifully. I see now that you are indeed the right choice for my son. I'm humbled, the weight of her approval hitting me harder than I expected. Thank you, Luna. That means a lot. Keep him grounded, she adds before vanishing into the darkness with the effortless gracelin of a former queen. I rush home, desperate to tell Cade about the encounter. I'm so excited that I mistime my entrance, and the heavy front door catches me right on the forehead as I swing it open. I let out a sharp yelp of pain. Cade is on me in a heartbeat. He's frantic, his eyes wide with worry as he leads me to the couch to check for a concussion. The pain is already fading into a dull throb, but he's beating himself up over the accident, as if he'd been the one to strike me. Cade, I'm fine. It was just a door, I laugh, pulling his head down to my chest to still his hovering hands. His worry melts into a deep, determined tenderness. He hovers over me on the couch, his focus shifting entirely to making sure I feel taken care of. The air in the living room thickens with a magnetic, familiar heat as we lose ourselves in the moment, a quiet, private celebration of the peace we've finally won. When the tension finally breaks and we're tangled together in the quiet of the house, Cade pulls me into a tight, protective embrace. I love you, Kennedy, he whispers against my skin. I love you too, I murmur, feeling completely at home. Naughty Luna, he teases, nipping playfully at my ear. Getting into trouble with stationary objects the moment I look away. I'll have you know your mother officially approves of me, I counter, trying to sound dignified despite my messy hair. She says I'm the right choice. Cade chuckles, the sound rich and satisfied. Of course she does. She recognizes a brilliant, adorable dork when she sees one. Cade, I gasp, feigning hurt. How could you be so mean to someone you just assaulted with a door? He jumps back into mock panic mode, and I can't help but laugh, the sound echoing through our home. For the first time, the future doesn't look like a storm, it looks like a sunrise. Chapter 33. Kennedy's POV. Living with Cade has been a revelation. Between the high-stakes leadership of the pack and my clinical rounds, he has become my gravity. He makes me laugh until I'm breathless and offers a protective affection that feels like a constant, warm current beneath my skin. Even the chaos has become a bit more domestic. Chandler, ignoring every one of my alpha warnings, has found herself entangled with Cylin. The man actually faked a shoulder strain just to be treated at our clinic. When Cade grumbled about territorial boundaries, I managed to distract him with a massage and a little undivided attention. It's funny, the pack sees a legendary predator, but for me, he's a softie who just wants to be first in my heart. Lately, though, the instinct has been growing. I've felt Cade's gaze lingering on my neck during our quiet moments. The alpha in him is itching to finalize the bond, to place the mark that would link our souls permanently. I'd been hesitant, worried that the weight of the Luna title would change who I am. But seeing him move mountains for my safety has taught me something. If he trusts me to lead beside him, I should trust myself too. Tonight, I decided the waiting is over. After a quiet dinner, I led a confused Cade toward the clinic. He thought I'd forgotten paperwork, but I took him into the very exam room where we first met, the place where the trajectory of my life shifted forever. "Take a seat," I whispered, directing him to the patient's bed. "Kennedy, where is this paperwork?" he asked, looking around the clinical space. I didn't answer with words. I stepped between his knees, my hands resting on his broad shoulders. I swept my hair over one side, exposing the line of my neck. "Forget the paperwork, Cade." His breath hitched, his hands instantly anchoring on my hips. His nostrils flared as the scent of the room, antiseptic and history, mixed with the sudden, electric pull between us. "Mark me, Cade," I said, my voice steady. "Right here, where it all began." "Kennedy, if you're not certain," his voice was a dark, low rumble of warning and intense desire. "I've never been more certain," I replied. He pulled me into a kiss that was less of a greeting and more of a vow. A desperate, beautiful reaching for a future that was finally within our grasp. I clutched his shoulders, the world outside the clinic walls fading into static. We moved in a rhythmic, magnetic dance, the proximity a delicious kind of torture until the air in the room felt like it was on fire. He trailed his lips along my jawline, his breath hot against my skin. My heart spiked as he found the hollow of my throat. I wanted this. The bond that would entwine our scents and link our fates until the very end. "I warned you," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Once I claim you, you are mine in every world there is." He didn't pull away this time. As he finalized the bond, I expected a sting, but instead, a rush of overwhelming, blinding light seemed to fill my vision. It was a surge of pure, soul-deep connection that racked through me, making me arch against him with a sharp gasp. It wasn't just a mark. It was a homecoming. When he finally pulled back, I was completely undone, my pulse thrumming with the new rhythm of our shared life. "Luna Kennedy," he growled, his eyes dark with a possessiveness that had only been amplified by the bond. We stepped out into the night, and the shift was immediate. The scent of the new mark announced my status to the territory. As we passed, I saw pack members stop and incline their heads. Not out of fear, but out of a deep, newfound respect for the woman who had finally claimed her place. We ran into the wilderness together, shifting as the moon reached its peak. My wolf felt rejuvenated, every muscle humming with the strength that came from the bond. I remembered the years I spent running alone, drifting through the trees with no direction. Now I have a mate. Now I have a home. We finally collapsed into the cool grass, the silver light of the moon washing over us. "You know what the highlight of today was?" Cade asked, pulling me into his side. "The fact that you finally officially trapped the best doctor in the region?" I joked. "No," he chuckled. "It's the fact that your mother finally hit the jackpot. She's going to be insufferable now that she has an alpha for a son-in-law." I laughed, swatting at his chest. He wasn't wrong. Well, my highlight was the feeling of that bond taking hold. "I think I'm going to like being yours." He pulled my hand to his lips, kissing my knuckles with a tenderness that made my chest ache. "And I'm the luckiest man in the world for having you." 34. Kennedy. "Well, look what the wolf brought in." I grin. Chandler freezes when I turn my flashlight on. She's halfway across the territory, her clothes crumpled and lipstick smeared. "Hey, Kennedy." I turn the light off. I hope your date with your alpha went well. How'd you know I was with him? Chandler, please. You look like a mess, so you were either fucking or fighting a bear out there. She chuckles, and we walk back to the pack house. Chandler has had a room there for as long as I can remember, and I'm sure her alpha is asking her to transfer packs to be with him. I doubt he feels comfortable traveling and leaving his pack for hours to be with her for a short while. You can go, I tell her. The words taste sour in my mouth, but I have found my happiness. I want her to find it too and grow as I have. Kennedy, she hesitates. I can't leave you alone. You just became Luna and need my support. This is a hard topic for us. We have been friends for years, and if she were to transfer packs, I would hardly see her. Don't lose him for me, Chandler. It would be selfish for me to ask you to stay. Go. I'll be okay. We spend the rest of the night on the grass under the stars, sniffling because we know we will soon have to say goodbye. I ask her if she thinks he's the one. She laughs and replies she can't possibly know that yet, but I argue alphas are so intense they declare you as their territory early on. I know from experience. When I come home, Cade finds me looking gloomy. He demands to know what's wrong, promising to resolve whatever the problem is. When I tell him, he looks almost angry that this is out of his control. Chandler will leave one day or another. The next morning, he tells me that my old cabin has been given to a pregnant mother. He did it in honor of Anjali, the young girl who died tragically. Although she passed away before I could do much for her, at least another mother will have support. My criminal case is still pending, but Cade doubts my medical license will be revoked. That's all that matters to me. I walk into the kitchen and take my phone. After my mother caught wind of my marking, she became hell-bent on visiting. I've run out of excuses to keep her at arm's length. She's coming to the pack and will likely demand that Cade get her a flashy new gift. I rub my forehead. Hey, Cade enters the kitchen. Are you still thinking about Chandler? About my mom, actually. She's going to drive us nuts with her demands. Cade shrugs. I'll smile wide and that will distract her. That seems to work on you. I'm serious. Don't worry about it. If it's money she wants, I'll give it to her. Cade, that's not how things should be. He takes my hand. Let's go on a walk. We tread deep into the wilderness, the sun beaming above us. Cade sits by a tall tree and pulls me to his lap. The cool breeze brushes my hair all over the place, and Cade strokes it behind my ears. Remember when I thought you went missing and sent the pack on a manhunt after you? I chuckle. Of course. You were so dramatic. I fucking lost my mind thinking you were in danger. The pack was caught off guard by my behavior. Looking back, I think that's the day I accepted that I'm screwed. You had me wrapped around your finger. PFF, don't flatter yourself. You were enthralled by me since day one. Wow, he says. If only the pack knew how humble their Luna is. I laugh and sweat his leg. Leave me alone. You know I love you. Right, doctor? More than my wolf. My smile consumes my face. I turn around and snuggle into his chest. Me too. I'm glad you burst into my office that day and made your ridiculous proposition. I think that's my favorite memory. We stay there for a while, forgetting about the responsibilities of the pack. Right now, we're just two souls in love. I have a strange dream. Usually, I don't remember them, but this one is fresh. First, I see a figure of light, who I assume is the goddess. I stare at her with awe. She disappears, and right as darkness engulfs me, Cade appears with a baby in his arms. There you are, he said with a warm smile. We were looking for you. I'm startled awake. Cade and I are still against the tree, but there's no child. What is it? He asks. Nothing, I chuckle. Just had a weird dream. He doesn't ask me to elaborate, only takes my hand and begins leading me back to the pack. I glance over my shoulder to look at the tree we were against, and there, I swear I see a floating blob of light. The Luna is watching over us, and maybe she's hinting that although I'll say goodbye to Chandler and my previous lifestyle, a wonderful gift is coming our way. I smile and tell her, thank you. What? Cade replies. He looks back, but the blob has disappeared. I said thank you for being so lovely. He rolls his shoulders arrogantly. What can I say? The moon goddess knows how to build her alphas. Wow, look who is being arrogant now. It's only the truth, baby. I take off running to show him how he can't resist the chase. A reminder that I have him wrapped around his finger, as he calls it. Cade's instinct has him taking off after me. He easily catches me, of course, he does, and we go tumbling down on the grass in a fit of laughter. He hovers above me and smiles down like I put the moon in the sky. I smile back, my chest feeling full. If I hung the moon, he hung the sun. Chapter 35. Kennedy's POV. And we just fought all night. I went for a run to cool off, and he got even angrier because I went alone. I pat Chandler's back, offering a sympathetic smile. If anyone understands the protective intensity of a high-ranking alpha, it's me. After months of navigating life with Cade, we still have our fire and ice days, but we've learned that communication is the only way to keep the storm from breaking the house. It'll be okay, Chandler. You two just need to find your rhythm, I reassure her. He's just so busy, she sniffles. I try to be understanding, but then I get quiet, and he gets upset because he knows I'm sad, but doesn't know why. I don't want to seem clingy. I nod. Sometimes, being a mate to a leader means holding space for them, but it also means being brave enough to show your own vulnerability. Come on. Let's get some ice cream before he inevitably shows up to claim you. But I told him I was staying here until tomorrow. I laugh. He'll be here tonight, I promise. He's just as impatient as Cade. Right on cue, my mate pops his head around the corner. His usual confident smirk vanishes the second he sees Chandler's tears. Cade can face a rogue pack, but he is notoriously terrified of feminine distress. I have paperwork. Important alpha things, he mutters, disappearing instantly. I snort. Unbelievable. He can lead a territory, but can't handle a tissue. I rest a hand on my heavy, rounded belly, and Chandler's tears turn into a grin. It's been 4 months since the food poisoning Cade suspected turned out to be a growing pup. The news spread like wildfire once my mother found out. Much to Cade's annoyance, he wanted to keep me in a protective bubble for as long as possible. Later that evening, Cade appears in the kitchen, looking freshly shifted and devastatingly handsome. He's at the perimeter, Chandler. Chandler turns bright red. My prediction was right. After a bone-crushing hug, she heads out to meet Cylin at the border. Cade and I follow at a distance, watching as she walks into the arms of her mate. Remember those days? I sigh, leaning against Cade. Young, dramatic love. Kennedy, we had an argument 72 hours ago about the correct way to organize the nursery. He reminds me dryly. We are in the exact same boat. I chuckle, leaning into the warmth of his chest. You really know how to ruin a moment, don't you? He wraps his arms around me, his hands resting protectively over our daughter. Let's get you inside. It's getting cold, and the doctor says you need your rest. The next morning, the peace is shattered by the sound of clattering in the kitchen. I head downstairs to find my mother making breakfast, but the air around her is sharp and bitter. Hey, Mom, I greet her. No response. Mom? I heard you, Kennedy, she quips, her back to me. I went to the clinic today. I spoke to the technician. She turns around, her face twisted in a scowl. A girl? Is the firstborn a girl? For the moon's sake, Kennedy, you had one job, to secure the lineage. The words hit me like a physical blow. Tears prick my eyes, not just from the cruelty of her tone, but because she stole the joy of discovery from Cade and me. She's attacking my child before she's even born. In that moment, I feel a new kind of strength settle in my bones. The strength of a Luna and a mother. Leave, Mom. What? I'm drawing a line, I say, my voice trembling but firm. My daughter will not grow up around your toxicity. I have Cade's respect, and I have my own. I don't need yours if it comes with this much poison. Get out of my house. You ungrateful. You heard her, Cade's voice booms from the doorway. His eyes are dark, his alpha presence filling every inch of the room. Get out of my territory. Now. The silence that follows her departure is heavy, but it's a clean silence. Cade holds me as I sob, rubbing my back and whispering sweet nothings until my heart finally slows down. I'm so proud of you, he whispers. And I am so excited for our little girl. As the weeks pass, Cade becomes my ultimate caretaker. He worships the changes in my body, finding beauty in every curve. He even tried to empathize by wearing a watermelon in a bag around his chest for a day to see what it was like. Though the experiment ended quickly when I caught him eating the last of my salted caramel ice cream. One clear, crisp night, Cade leads me out into the wilderness behind our home. A sleek, professional telescope sits under the moonlight. "Look through here," he gestures. I peer through the lens, seeing a vast ocean of stars. One, in the very center, is exceptionally bright. "It's beautiful." "You got us a telescope?" "Thank you, Cade." "No, Kennedy," he chuckles, pulling me back against his chest. "The star. I registered it in your name. Yours and the baby's." I blink, stunned. You bought a star?" "For the woman who gave me a world, I had to find something in the heavens," he says softly. "I couldn't give you the moon, so I gave you a piece of the galaxy." "You are the brightest thing in my life, Kennedy." I lose control of my emotions, crying happy tears as he holds me under the infinite sky. "I didn't get you anything nearly that grand," I sniffle against his shirt. "You're giving me a family," he says, his voice thick with emotion as he rubs my stomach. "That's the most precious gift a man could ever receive." "Thank you, Kennedy, for everything." Under the light of our star, the pariah doctor and the lonely alpha finally found what they were looking for, a love that reached from the earth to the edge of the universe.